Chapter 301. Cangzhou, Guanhai Xianqing. 5 years have passed since Qin Daoxian went to the Demon Ape Mountains to retreat to break through the Golden Pill. In the past 5 years, Guanhai Xianqing has changed a lot. Originally, Guanhai Xianqing was an unfinished fairy city. At the beginning of the construction of this fairy city, considering the future development, a large blank area was reserved. Today, these blank areas have all become the soil for the industrialization of Guanhai Xianqing. Guanhai Xianqing East District, the 7th Industrial Zone. This is one of the magical instrument production bases in Guanhai Xianqing. In the industrial area, large-scale magical instrument factories stand here. Nie Zhong, are you off work? Nie Zhong, who was wearing a brand new blue factory uniform, just walked out of the factory, when a young man wearing the same blue factory uniform greeted him with a smile. As everyone knows, Nie Zhong heard this, his face turned pale, and he coughed. No big or small, call Director Nie. Hearing this, the young man stepped forward immediately, slapped Nie Zhong on the head, and shouted, "Stinky boy, I want you to show off." Hey, don't move, Lao Tzu's new clothes. Baby Nie Zhong patted his new uniform, his face full of pride. The Nie Zhong in front of him and the young man next to him were the first batch of students who entered the Qin family's technical school 5 years ago. Nie Zhong entered the school run by the Qin family. With his steadfastness and willingness to learn, he successfully graduated from the technical school in less than a year. Then he was assigned to this magic tool factory, and he worked for more than 4 years. In the past 4 years, Nie Zhong not only got a foundation pill with the interest-free loan from Chongping Industrial and Commercial Bank. Through more than 4 years of work and social security, he also obtained an opportunity to break through the foundation building period in Guanhai Xianqing's main spiritual eye. In the past, a loose cultivator like Nie Zhong, who had no background and no resources, could only win a chance to build a foundation unless he went to the battlefield of Izumo. But now, there are countless scattered cultivators like Nie Zhong in Guang'an Prefecture, who don't need to go to the battlefield of Izumo to work hard to get a good future. People like Nie Zhong are a typical example. From the scattered repair of nothing, the foundation is successfully established. Now, with Nie Zhong's successful foundation building, his artifact refining skills have made new breakthroughs, and he can already refine second-order low-grade magic tools with the help of the Rongling furnace. In this way, not only did Nie Zhong's income skyrocket, but his status in the factory area was also further improved. No, the 7th Industrial Zone in the east of the city, the 5th factory of the Guanhai Instrument Manufacturing Factory, built a new workshop, and promoted Nie Zhong to be the person in charge of this workshop, that is, the workshop director. Since then, Nie Zhong can be regarded as an official. In the period when he first entered the factory, a mere workshop director who was in charge of mortals and loose cultivators would not have been in the eyes of cultivators like Nie at all. However, as Nie Zhong stayed in the factory for longer and longer, he witnessed the rapid development of the factory and the substantial increase in the income of the casual repairers in the factory. The gold content of Nie Zhong, the workshop director, has also risen further. Along the way, others saw the brand new uniform on Nie Zhong's body, and their eyes were full of envy. "Old Nie, don't show off, let me tell you, I have applied to be transferred to the 9th Industrial Zone." Sure enough, when Nie Zhong heard this, he immediately pricked up his ears and hurriedly said, "Brother Situ, tell me what's going on. How did you enter the 9th Industrial Zone? Isn't that an industrial zone that only the direct descendants of the Qin family can enter?" Although the Qin family wants to make Guanhai Xianqing an industrial fairy city, even the industrial fairy city has different levels of internal confidentiality. For example, the production of first-order and second-order magical instruments with low technical content is carried out in 8 industrial areas in the east of the city. And those with higher technical content, such as the Qin family's mysterious spirit armor manufacturing and automatic spirit talisman manufacturing, are placed in the 9th Industrial Zone with the highest level of confidentiality. Although the 9th Industrial Zone has only one industrial zone, its actual area is much larger than the 3 industrial zones in the east of the city combined. The location of the 9th Industrial Zone is in the outer ring of the north of the city. In the past, only the Qin family members and the direct descendants of the Qin family's vassal families could apply to join this industrial zone. Moreover, the application conditions are extremely strict, not only to go through numerous identity checks, but also to make an oath before entering. It can be said that in this 9th industrial zone, everything is pretended to be the core property of the Qin family. It stands to reason that in such a place, it is impossible for the Qin family to let an outsider in. Seeing Nie Zhong's unbelievable look, Situ Jun smiled and said, "I'm in the Qin family." "You?" Nie Zhong pointed at Situ Jun, his face twitched. "The guy who eats soft rice is so shameless." "Just be jealous, my lady is not only beautiful, but also gentle and considerate," Situ Jun said with a flat mouth. "The number of loose cultivators who want to join the Qin family is like a Crucian carp crossing the river. You people are sour." Nie Zhong looked at the proud Situ Jun and said he didn't want to talk to him. "Hey, Nie Zhong, don't go, we haven't finished talking yet. Don't bother me." "Well, in the end, it's still jealousy." Roll. Qingxi District, this is the old town of Guanhai Xiancheng. In the west area of the city, there are all kinds of shops, inns, banks and other buildings. In the independent courtyard of a high-end inn, several Ji family cultivators stayed here, and the one headed was actually the Ji family's Jindan elder. "Yan Yuan, what did the junior of the Qin family say?" In the independent courtyard, an old man in a gray robe was lying on the seat with his eyes slightly closed. The old man sensed the approach of the young monk, opened his sharp eyes, and asked. Third elder, the young monk named Ji Yenyuan, wearing a blue Taoist robe and a restrained expression, said respectfully, "The Qin family said that their patriarch is in retreat and it is inconvenient to see guests." Humph. Hearing this, the third elder of the Ji family raised his bushy eyebrows fiercely. "I'm just a junior from the Purple Mansion, so big. Why, do you think that he is lucky enough to win Jiang Zui's waist, so he can treat the world's Jindan cultivators as nothing? There is no wall that does not leak the wind." Although Chen Daoxian warned the clansmen not to leak the results of the battle between him and Jiang Zui. The outcome of this battle is still known to the outside world. Perhaps the people who leaked this battle were not the Jiang family and the Qin family, but other monks who were passing by to watch the battle. After all, the battle between Chen Daoxian and Jiang Zui broke out above the Wangxinghai Sea. At that time, the Zhou family held the Golden Core celebration. There were many cultivators in Zifu along the way. If they were not in order, they were seen by a cultivator of Zifu and spread the word. Afterwards, neither the Jiang family nor the Qin family came forward to refute the rumor. Obviously, the acquiescence of the Qin family and the Jiang family undoubtedly confirmed the fact that Chen Daoxian and Jiang Zhu were slightly better in the battle. This time, not only Zhangzhou, but the entire Wangxinghai is spreading the name of Chen Daoxian. To be able to win over a late Jindan cultivator with the cultivation level of the Zifu period, even the first place in the Zifu Tianjiao list is difficult to achieve. You must know that Jiang Zui is not an ordinary late-stage Jindan cultivator, although he failed to make it to Wan Xinghai's Jindan real person list. But in terms of strength, it is a lot stronger than the ordinary late Jindan cultivator. If it weren't for this, Jiang Zui would not be known as the closest cultivator of the Jiang family to the nascent Soul period. But listening to the tone of the third elder of the Ji family, it was obvious that Jiang Zui was not taken seriously. Ji Yenyuan saw that his third elder was furious and did not dare to speak, so he immediately knelt down and buried his head deeply on the ground. Ji Yenyuan knew that although the third elder of the family was powerful and ranked on the Jindan reality list, he had a disadvantage, that is, jealousy and cruelty or extreme murderousness. Ji Yenyuan didn't understand why the family sought to cooperate with the Qin family and sent such a killing over. The full name of the third elder of the Ji family is Ji Suhui. His name is bright and infinite, but his behavior is completely different from his name. Not to mention Ji Suhui outside, even inside Jis house, there are murderers who can stop children from crying. Now that Ji Yenyuan is following behind this master, it is better to say that he came to the Qin family for trouble more vividly than to seek cooperation with the Qin family. The members of the Ji family stayed in Guanhai Xiancheng for less than 3 days. The Chen family said that Chen Daoxian had retreated to break through the golden pill. This Ji Suhui was extremely unhappy, as if he had been wronged by the heavens. Ji Yenyuan dared to guarantee that if Chen Daoxian was not standing behind the palace master of Jinhai Palace, because of this Ji Suhui dared to bloodbath this immortal city. Bloodbathed a fairy city, this Ji Suhui did a lot in Izumo. Even. According to rumors, the other party has also done such evil things in Wanxinghai. It's just that Qianyuan Jianzong did not capture the evidence, and secondly, due to the background of the Ji family, it did not go into depth. Seeing Ji Suhui getting more and more angry, Ji Yenyuan hurriedly knelt down and said, "Third elder, although Chen Daoxian is in retreat, the disciple has investigated in detail the large workshop opened by the Chen family in Guanhai Xianqing in the past few days, and has made an amazing discovery." "Oh?" Ji Suhui raised his eyebrows. "What did you find?" Ji Yenyuan breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly stood up, and took out 3 things from the storage bag. They are a second-order flying sword, a second-order rejuvenation pill, and a second-order lightning-gathering talisman. "Third elders, please take a look. This is what the disciples have investigated in Guanhai Xianqing in the past few days." Ji Suhui flipped through it at will, and found that they were all low-level magical medicine pills, and he was suddenly lacking in interest. "It's all junk, what do you use it for?" After all, Ji Suhui threw it on the ground in disgust. Seeing this, Ji Yenyuan bravely picked up these 3 items one by one, and said patiently, "Third elder Mingjian, these items are indeed difficult to get into your eyes, but for the cultivators of the foundation, they are all indispensable." "Nice one." He paused. "On the market in Jingzhou, a second-order high-grade magic weapon can be priced at most 30,000 to 40,000 spirit stones, and the Chen family can actually mass-produce such a magic weapon." Hearing this, Ji Suhui became interested. "You just said mass production." "Exactly, I once performed the ecstasy technique on a loose cultivator in the eastern district of the city, and the other party personally disclosed the output of such second-order instruments. According to the other party, the most common magic tool factory in Guanhai Xianqing can produce thousands of second-order magic tools per day. In the east area of the city, there are such factories of magic tools everywhere, not only the number, but also the types of magic tools." "Wow!" Hearing this, Ji Suhui stood up abruptly. He grabbed Ji Yenyuan's shoulder, stared at the other party with his eyes fixed, and his eyes showed a look of extreme excitement. "One workshop can produce the number of second-order magic weapons in one day." "Thousands? Do you know how much they cost?" Ji Yenyuan endured the severe pain from his shoulders, gritted his teeth and said, "I don't know, that loose cultivator doesn't know much, except for the speed of his personal refining and the number of people in the factory. I don't know anything about it other than the output." Seeing Ji Yenyuan's pained expression, Ji Suhui gently released his hand and said, "Oh, this magic weapon was made by him." "Exactly," Ji Yenyuan nodded. "According to what he said, he can refine a second-order magic weapon within 3 hours." "Impossible." Ji Suhui shook his head and said, "Although I am not an artifact refiner, I have personally observed the artifact refining by an artifact refiner in the clan, and it is impossible to do so quickly." This is also where the disciples are puzzled. The artifact refining masters trained by the Qin family, why are artifact refining so fast? Hearing this, Ji Suhui laughed. "It seems that we have come to the right Qin family." Originally, the ancestors saw Cangzhou becoming increasingly chaotic and wanted to force his hand, but he didn't expect to pick up a big bargain. Although I don't know why the Qin family was able to refine a magic weapon in such a short period of time, Ji Suhui had a hunch that the Qin family hid a huge secret. Maybe this is the real reason for the rapid rise of the Qin family. Although Ji Suhui doesn't like low-level magical tools, but the number of low-level magical tools is much different, and the meaning is very different. Lingshi, not to mention Ji Suhui, even Yuanyingzhenjuan, Yuanshan Daojun can't do without it. Just because of the power of creation contained in the spirit stone, it can not only act as a currency among low-level monks, but also play a certain role in nascent soul and even higher-level monks. The only troublesome thing is that it is very cumbersome to extract the power of creation in the spirit stone. Fortunately, there is no way to simply extract the power of good fortune in the spirit stone, otherwise this kind of thing would have been monopolized by high-level monks long ago. It is absolutely impossible for low-level monks to trade with each other at will. Seeing the contemplative expression on the third elder's face, Ji Yenyuan did not dare to interrupt. After a long while, Ji Suwei stood up abruptly. "Come on, let's go to the Qin family's factory to see it." "Three elders, are we going to be so aggressive?" "Hey!" Hearing this, Ji Suwei smiled lightly, turned his head and said, "I really don't know how the family teaches the younger generation now. Boy, I will teach you to be good. Any treasure in this world is owned by whoever is powerful, understand? I see that your juniors are the ones from the Qianyuan sword sect who have smoothed their brains and blood." Although he did not agree with the words of the third elder, Ji Yenyuan was still a little bit sullen when he was pointed at the nose and scolded by the elders of the family, and immediately said, "The third elder, please." "That's right." Ji Suwei nodded with satisfaction. "With me here, what are you afraid of?" What the three elders said is very true. View Heixinqing. City Lord's Mansion. Since the Qin family built Guanhai Xianqing into an industrial ferry city 5 years ago, the core of the Qin family's work has been transferred from the Shuanghu Island industrial zone to Sequoia Island. It has to be said that with the foundation of the Shuanghu Island industrial zone, the industrialization process of Guanhai Xianqing is progressing extremely smoothly. The only obstacle encountered may be that Guanhai Xianqing has too much production capacity, and the existing market cannot digest it at all. Qin Dalian was obedient and stored all the excess instruments and medicinal pills produced. After Qin Daoxian successfully formed the pill, he would solve the problem of the sales market. Despite this, Qin Dalian was still a little frightened when she saw the accumulation of more and more various medicinal herbs. After all, compared with the original Shuanghu Island industrial zone, after the scattered repairs were brought into the Qin family industrial system, the production capacity that erupted in Guanhai Xianqing was more than 100 times that of the past. If it weren't for the delay in solving the sales market problem, the expansion rate of Guanhai Xianqing's industrial scale would be more than 10 times faster. In the city lord's mansion, Qin Dalian is concentrating on checking various approval documents. Immediately, an astonishing momentum erupted from the east of the city. "Who is it? Dare to make trouble in my Qin family?" Qin Dalian suddenly stood up. In the past 5 years, although Qin Daolian's strength has not improved much, with the control of the huge machine of the Qin family, the power of Qin Dalian has increased day by day. At this moment, he was angry, and it really made others tremble. Chapter 302. Guanhai Xianqing, Qingdong District. "Who dare to spy on the secrets of my Qin family?" A loud shout resounded throughout the eastern district of the city. Immediately afterwards, a cyan light burst into the sky and crashed toward the east of the city. Boom! With an explosion, a figure wearing cyan spirit armor stood in front of the 3G family cultivators. My Qin family said that the young patriarch is in retreat, and it is inconvenient to see guests. Are your Ji family trespassing on my Qin family's important place to provoke a dispute between Sangzhou and Jingzhou? Although his whole body was wrapped in cyan spirit armor, he could still tell from his voice that this person was the military minister of the Qin family, Qin Fusheng. In 5 years, Qin Fusheng's cultivation has not changed much, and he has only been promoted to the middle of Zifu. When the Qin family had so much vitality essence, Qin Fusheng's cultivation progress was extremely slow. But his strength, compared to 5 years ago, has undergone earth-shaking changes. 5 years ago, Qin Fusheng might have barely made it to the Zifu Tianjiao list with his third-order high-grade power spirit armor. And the ranking on the Zifu Tianjiao list will not be too high. But in 5 years, Qin Fusheng's Dao realm not only broke through the third-layer star transformation realm, but also created his own sword art that fits his Dao realm. You must know that in the same Dao state, there is a huge gap between the monks who created their own sword art and those who did not create their own sword art. Before Zhou Mubai created his own sword art, his ranking on the Zifu Tianjiao ranking was barely mid to low. But after he created the Qinglian sword art, his ranking on the Zifu Tianjiao ranking rose by leaps and bounds, and he jumped into the top 10, becoming the top Zifu cultivator in Wangxinghai. Zhou Mubai's strength was even comparable to that of the Jindan real person who had just broken through. At this time, Qin Fusheng belonged to this situation. It is true that Qin Fusheng's Dao realm is only at the third stage, slightly inferior to Zhou Mubai, but Qin Fusheng has learned the melee magic power of 3 heads and 6 arms, which is enough to make up for this gap in Dao realm. Coupled with Qin Fusheng's possession of a third-rank high-grade power spirit armor, the two are really fighting each other, and Zhou Mubai is probably not Qin Fusheng's opponent today. I have to say that in the past 5 years, although Qin Daoxuan's progress has been amazing, the progress of the younger generations of the Qin family has not been slow. Except for Qin Fusheng, the remaining 9 Qin family sword cultivators, relying on the third-order low-grade power spirit armor, can basically compete with the cultivators who are ranked at the bottom of the Zifu Tianjiao list. Coupled with Qin Daoxuan's breakthrough to the Golden Core stage, his strength is so powerful that he can't even figure it out himself. In this way, the Qin family's current strength is really not weak. East District. Not long after Qin Fusheng stopped the Ji family cultivator, one after another, they flew towards this place with extreme speed. The cultivator of the Zifu escaped quickly, and in the blink of an eye, 300 figures stood behind Qin Fusheng. If you look closely, you will find that the more than 300 cultivators of the Purple Mansion behind Qin Fusheng are wearing at least second-order high-grade power spirit armor. The dozens of people standing in front are wearing third-order low-grade power spirit armor. Seeing so many cultivators of Zifu, and wearing the same cyan spirit armor, the contempt on Ji Suhui's face subsided slightly and became a little more serious. Outsiders say that Sangzhou doesn't even have a decent cultivator family, but I didn't expect this old man to see so many Zifu cultivators here today. Ji Suhui looked around at everyone and said with a smile, "Interesting, really interesting." He paused, however. "Do you think the gap between Zifu and Jindan can be eliminated just by the number of people?" Qin Fusheng had a cold face and cupped his hands. "My Qin family has no intention of offending seniors, but this is the secret place of my Qin family. If seniors take a step forward, don't blame my Qin family for being rude." Ha ha ha. Ji Suhui laughed wildly. "Rude? A junior in the middle of the Purple Mansion, how dare he say such rude words?" It seems that the old man has not done anything in these years, and the outside world has forgotten the name of the real blood slaughter. After all, the old man's eyes flashed thunder. However, Qin Fusheng and others responded faster. "Don't look at the fact that there are only more than 300 cultivators in the Purple House, but all of them are cultivators of the Qin family. The military cultivator of the Qin family was the military department that Qin Daoxian personally established to defend the family. Although the cultivator's great power is attributed to himself, as long as the cultivation base is high, the strength will not be weak. But with the same cultivation, there are always those who are good at fighting and those who are not good at fighting. For example, some monks are good at cultivating immortal arts such as alchemy, weapon refining, and formation, but they are not good at fighting with people. No matter how high this kind of cultivator is, normally, no cultivation force will push them out to fight with others. Therefore, for any major cultivation force, it is necessary to establish a special force department. Ordinary small families may not pay much attention to these, but the slightly larger Jindan family and even the Yuanying family will have departments that focus on production and departments that focus on force. The military department of the Qin family is the military department of the Qin family. As the military department of the Qin family, the military department of the Qin family took into account the preparations for various combat situations at the beginning of its establishment. Fighting with high-level monks as low-level monks is a compulsory course for these military monks. From the point of view of a loose cultivator, a low-level monk fighting a high-level monk is no different from courting death. But for the military cultivator of the Qin family, not necessarily. One of the magic weapons for low-level monks to fight against high-level monks is the formation method. The formation method is one of the compulsory subjects for all the cultivators of the Qin family. Arrangement. Seeing that the two sides could not be kind, Qin Fusheng shouted. Immediately, more than 300 escaping lights scattered out, in the sky and the ground, in all directions, surrounding Ji Suhui in the center. This is the most instructed by the cultivators of the Qin family's military department, and it is also the most powerful combination attack method, called Fanqing Sword Formation. This formation takes the formation of people as the meaning of the stars, and surrounds the enemy like the stars and the moon. Of course, siege and suppression are only the most basic functions of all group attack formations. The reason why this star sword formation is favored by the cultivators of the Qin family's army is that it shares the role of attack. Once the Fanqing sword formation is formed, as long as the enemy trapped by the formation cannot break the upper limit of the formation, his attack will be shared by the formation. An attack by a Jindan cultivator would definitely be fatal to a Zifu cultivator, but if it were distributed to dozens of Zifu cultivators, it would be hard to help the other party. If there are more than 300 people, Ji Suhui is a master of art and boldness. As a cultivator of the Jindan reality list, the name of the blood slaughter is not only in the Wangxinghai, but even among the Jindan real people in Xianyan Prefecture, it is very prestigious. There are only a few hundred cultivators in the Purple Mansion. If ordinary cultivators of the late Jindan stage were here, they would be a little terrified. But the number of cultivators in the Zifu that he killed in his life far exceeded this number. Therefore, seeing Chen Fusheng and others forming a siege, Ji Suhui not only did not take the opportunity to destroy it, but also the old waited in place and let them do what they wanted. During the period, Ji Suhui did not forget to educate the younger monks in the clan. You guys are optimistic, all formations, in front of absolute strength, are all garbage. Although Ji Yenyuan and the others were surrounded by more than 300 cultivators from the Purple Mansion, they were trembling with fear at the moment, but when they heard the words of their third elder, they still nodded and said, "What the third elder said is very true." Humph. Ji Suhui saw that Ji Yenyuan and others were insincere, snorted coldly, and didn't care about them. Immediately, his body flashed, his body was wrapped in lightning, and he punched Chen Fusheng directly. Chapter 303. Boom! A dull explosion sounded in Chen Fusheng's chest. The next moment, a circle of white light waves, with Chen Fusheng as the core, rushes out directly. Immediately afterwards, the spiritual armor on each cultivator in the star sword formation, like the stars in the night sky, kept flashing. Seeing this scene, Ji Suhui's indifferent face became serious. The formation of scattered attacks? In front, Chen Fusheng held the immortal sword, gently pulled a sword flower, and said coldly, "Ji Renren, just retreat, my Chen family can pretend that nothing happened, and please Ji Renren not to make mistakes." Stop talking nonsense. Do you think that a mere formation can stop the old man? You must know that any formation has its limits. If you break this limit, the formation will self-destruct. Hearing this, Chen Fusheng waited intently. He knew that what Ji Suhui said was true. Although the Fanqing sword formation was a sword formation majored by the cultivators of the military department of the Qin family, the ultimate pressure that this sword formation itself could withstand was only the peak of Jindan. Once the opponent's attack exceeds the peak level of Jindan, the remaining pressure will be transferred to the eye of the formation, which is Chen Fusheng. Ji Suhui, as a top-level Jindan cultivator on the Jindan reality list, must have surpassed the peak of Jindan with his extreme attack power. In other words, the key to this victory is whether Chen Fusheng can withstand the remaining power spilled out of the star sword array. After the simple verbal confrontation, Ji Suhui stopped talking nonsense, and the white Taoist robe on his body shattered directly. I saw his body exuding golden light, and the thunder was overflowing. Off the field. Chen Daolian, who came after Chen Fusheng and the others, had an anxious look on her pretty face. When Chen Daoxian was in seclusion, although Chen Daolian was the acting patriarch of the family, his own cultivation had reached the early stage of Zifu. But Chen Daolian's own strength is not strong among the cultivators of Zifu. Even Chen Daoxian deliberately used the power of creation to create a third-order high-grade spirit armor for her in order to protect her safety. But it can only defend against the attacks of ordinary Jindan cultivators. For a top-level Jindan real person like Ji Suhui, with Chen Daolian's strength, he is not qualified to shoot in front of the opponent at all. At this moment, seeing the anxious situation on the field, Chen Daolian had to be anxious. Because she knew that no matter the outcome of this battle, it would not be a good thing for the Chen family. If this is victorious, the Chen family will offend the behemoth Jingzhou Ji family after offending the Jiang family in Taizhou. This is undoubtedly inconsistent with the strategic goal of the low-key development of the Chen family. If the military cultivator of the Chen family is defeated, let Ji Suhui break into the Chen family industrial area, and let the Ji family cultivator discover all the secrets of the Chen family's industrial production. It is bound to be more coveted by the Ji family, the Yuanying family. Even if the Ji family won't make a clear robbery because of the Xinhai palace mastered behind the Chen family, there will definitely be no less dirty tricks behind them. Being targeted by such a behemoth Jingzhou Ji family will inevitably bring great obstacles to the development of the Chen family. Under the dilemma, it is no wonder that Chen Daolian felt anxious. At this moment, Chen Daolian couldn't help but secretly blamed herself. The young patriarch only handed over the family to her for 5 years, and she encountered such a big problem. It is hard to imagine how the young clan chief and the old clan chief survived the family crisis when the strength of the clan was still weak. In the past, Chen Daoxian had been shielding the family monks from the wind and rain. When Chen Daolian took over the family, she realized how difficult it was for a family force to survive in the world of immortality. Looking around, they are all well-dressed, but under their humble and polite appearance, all they hide are naked interests and wolf ambitions. This point, whether the Chen family is weak or strong now, has not changed. Just when Chen Daolian frowned, a voice that made her almost cry with excitement rang in her ears. It seems that I came back in time. Hearing this, Chen Daolian quickly turned her head and saw behind her a pair of young monks, like Biren, standing behind her. The young monk's white robe was spotless, and a faint smile appeared on Jun Lang's face. The female cultivator next to her had an alluring face, a slender figure, and her waist could only be grasped. It's just that the female cultivator's eyes were all placed on the male cultivator beside him at the moment, as if turning a deaf ear to the battle not far away. These two were just Chen Daoxian and Luo Li, who used Mi Chen Fan to rush back immediately after receiving the message from Chen Daolian. Young patriarch. Chen Daolian immediately jumped into Chen Daoxian's arms with excitement, looking like she was crying. Chen Daoxian supported Chen Daolian's shoulders, rubbed her head, and said with a smile, "You're such an adult, and you still cry. I remember you were the toughest when you were a child, and you never cried." Chen Daolian blushed. Chen Daoxian made fun of the other party, and stopped talking, standing with his hands behind his back, his eyes on the battlefield. Front. The battle between Ji Suhui and the cultivator of the Chen family's military department has completely entered into a white-hot battle. Chen Daoxian glanced at him and found that this Ji Suhui was an individual cultivator in addition to his qi refining cultivation. The realm of rebirth from a drop of blood. Chen Daoxian frowned slightly. You must know that even his current body training is only at the realm of rebirth from a broken skull. Compared with Ji Suhui's blood-dripping realm, it is a large level lower. The blood-dropping realm of a body-refining cultivator is equivalent to the golden core stage of a qi-refining cultivator. In other words, this Ji Suhui is a top real person who has reached the level of Jindan for both body refining and qi refining. On the battlefield, the lightning flashes with the golden light. This thunder light is caused by the blessing of Ji Suhui's Thunder Dao domain, while the golden light is a phenomenon unique to the cultivators in the blood-dropping realm. After the body-refining cultivator is promoted to the blood-dripping realm, the blood in the whole body will change from ordinary red to golden. Once the physical strength is fully exerted, the whole body will flicker with golden light. Therefore, some monks also call it the golden body. Of course, the statement of the golden body is just an illusion, because only the blood of the blood-dropping cultivator has transformed into golden color. In other parts of the body, there is no transformation that is different from ordinary people. The physical body of the body-refining cultivator really begins to transform, after reaching the level of the nascent soul stage equivalent to the qi-refining cultivator, after integrating the true meaning of immortality into the physical body. However, although there is no obvious abnormal change in the body of the blood-dropping realm, this cultivator's body recovery ability has reached a level that can be called abnormal. This can be seen from the name of this cultivation realm. The realm of dripping blood is called the realm of rebirth after dripping blood. Theoretically, as long as a drop of blood remains, this cultivator will be able to recover again, which is extremely abnormal. Compared with the pure Jindan stage cultivator, the survivability is not known to be many times stronger. Ordinary Jindan cultivator, let alone a drop of blood, even if the most important Jindan still exists, must use the secret method of seizing the house as soon as possible, and find a new body to survive. It's like a cultivator in the blood-dripping realm. Even if he is shattered, he is not afraid of it. Of course, if someone could really beat this cultivator to smithereens, he wouldn't mind smashing it to ashes again. On the battlefield. At this moment, Ji Suhui has completely lost his relaxed and freehand posture. Now, apart from using the desperate secret technique with great side effects, he is doing his best. Thunder Dao territory and body refinement cultivation are the two major means by which he dominates the golden core stage. All are used. But it doesn't seem to work. Indeed, under the blessing of Thunder Dao domain and blood-dropping realm body refinement, his attack power surpassed the peak of Jindan, and directly entered a special level between Jindan cultivator and Yuanying Jinjuan. This is also the reason why he can be on the Jindan reality list. The attack power can reach this level, not to mention the cultivator of the Zifu. Even if the ordinary cultivator of the late Jindan comes, he can't withstand a few rounds of his full-strength attacks. This is also the confidence of Ji Suhui's arrogance and domineering in the Qin family. But now, although his attack has broken the tolerance limit of the star sword formation, the part of the power that exceeds it can't break the defense of this Zifu cultivator. This can't help but make Ji Suhui a little dumbfounded, not to mention the cultivator of the Zifu. The ordinary cultivator of the late Jindan stage doesn't have such a terrifying defense, right? And, shouldn't the cyan spirit armor on his body be a third-order high-grade spirit armor? Why is the defense so terrifying? And the other side's comprehension of sword intent and sword art, all of them are defensive sword intent and sword art. The back-earth sword intent that Qin Fusheng understood was originally born out of the Qin family's rock sword art. At the beginning, the Qin family was not as good as now, and there were not many swordsmanships that could be provided to the family cultivators. And what Qin Fusheng liked the most was this rock sword art. In fact, as a sword cultivator who is good at attacking, the Panshijian Ju and the thick earth sword intent that he later realized are really not in line with the appetite of most sword cultivators. As a sword cultivator, who doesn't want to attack Wushuang, or even fight beyond the ranks, all of them regard themselves as the favored sons of heaven. Only Qin Fusheng, in terms of kendo talent, Qin Fusheng's kendo talent is stronger than Qin Daoxian himself. In Qin Daoxuan's opinion, Qin Fusheng's kendo talent can even be compared with Zhou Mubai of the Zhou family. You must know that Qin Fusheng was able to comprehend the sword intent during the qi refining period. Although Qin Daoxian helped him, the more important reason was still Qin Fusheng himself. When Qin Daoxian first realized the sword intent during the qi refining period, he realized it completely by relying on the ability to store his understanding in the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. If he relies on his own understanding, whether he can comprehend the sword intent during the foundation establishment period is a matter of two things. Qin Daoxuan's kendo talent, looking at Sangzhou, can only be said to be a kendo genius, but he can't be regarded as a monster. But with the blessing of the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, the evildoer is not enough to describe his degree of perversion. Even so, after accepting a few epiphanies, Qin Fusheng actually achieved a level comparable to that of Qin Daoxian, which shows how powerful his kendo talent is. However, although Qin Fusheng's kendo talent is strong, his will to win is not strong. Compared to winning, Qin Fusheng's heart is to protect the safety of the Qin family. This can be seen from his swordsmanship. A monk's mouth may deceive people, but a monk's way will never lie. It is difficult for a cultivator with a protective heart to comprehend such a profound sword intent, let alone create such an amazing defensive sword art. Boom! Another dull explosion. The thunder light pierced through the khaki aperture and bombarded Qin Fusheng's cyan spiritual armor on his chest, causing him to sway slightly. But that's all. Not to mention the injury, Chen Fuxing didn't even change his eyes. Do not break defense. Under the shared pressure of the Fanqing sword formation, Ji Suhui, the top real person on the Jindan reality list, could not even break the defense of a middle-stage cultivator of Zifu. Speaking of this scene, its sensational effect is no less than that of Chen Daoxian defeating Jiang Zui. On the field, Ji Suhui had a livid face, murderous but helpless. Ji Yenyuan and Ji Yenyuan were both pale. Even if they are fools, they can see that the situation at this time is not good for the three of his Ji family. The third elder is too big to see the Zifu cultivator. Ji Yenyuan secretly said. As a Zifu cultivator who has entered the real fairyland, he clearly knows how perverted the Zifu cultivators who are at the top of the Zifu Tianjiao list. In his opinion, Fairy Qiyao, who ranked first, and Chen Daoxian, a cultivator of the Chen family who was born at that time, are definitely much stronger than ordinary Jindan cultivators. Although Ji Suhui is on the list of real people of Jindan, it is too reckless to rush up like this when there are more than 300 Zifu cultivators waiting in line with this level of Zifu cultivator. But as a junior in the clan, in the face of such a brutal third elder of the Ji family, Ji Yenyuan did not dare to say any words of persuasion. You must know that Ji Suhui's name of cruelty is famous not only in the outside world, but also in the clan. Ji Yenyuan clearly remembered that there was once a clan of the early Zifu family in the Yanzi generation. Because of his disobedience to the third elder, he was directly punched into flesh by the opponent. Because of this, the third elder was punished by the ancestors into the family's heart-refining cave for 13 years. But out of Lianxin cave, Ji Suhui went directly to the battlefield of Izumo. Not only did his personality not change, but he also set off a storm on the battlefield of Izumo, earning the name of Blood Slaughter. This time, the family sent him and the third elder to come to the Chen family, wanting to inquire about the truth of the Chen family. To be honest, Ji Yenyuan felt fear and rejection from the bottom of his heart. No one wants to stay with a lunatic, yes, in Ji Yenyuan's eyes. The third elder Ji Suhui is strong, but he is too crazy. He had no doubt that if Ji Suhui won today, he might go crazy and slaughter Guanhai Xianqing next. By then, the trouble they have caused will be big. Whether the Ji family will be implicated and punished by Chenyuan Zhenzong, Ji Yenyuan does not know, but as an entourage, he will definitely not be able to escape. Thinking of this, Ji Yenyuan even expected that Ji Suhui would be better off with Chen Jiao, and the two sides would stop. However, things didn't go his way. Unable to attack for a long time, Ji Suhui went completely crazy. Dead! Die! Die! You ants of the Chen family have a way of fighting against me alone. Later, the old man will break the line, and you will definitely leave your Chen family behind. All to die for. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian, who was standing with his hands behind his back and watching the battle from a distance, turned cold in an instant. Ji family Ji Suhui, even if he was not a cultivator at the beginning, had heard the name of the real blood slaughter. Ji Suhui may not be the strongest of all Jindan real people, but he is definitely the most notorious. Most of his fame stems from the indiscriminate killing of innocents. For this kind of lunatic, although he and the other party belong to the same camp of Wan Xinghai, Chen Daoxian undoubtedly despises this kind of person. Standing. He actually heard Ji Suhui's promise to slaughter the Chen family. How could Chen Daoxian not be angry? For others, killing your whole family may be a momentary word, but for Ji Suhui, the real person of blood slaughter, it is a naked declaration of war. Its nature is 100 times, 10,000 times more serious than the one he had with Jiang Zui at the beginning. It can be said that any force in Wan Xinghai will be indifferent after hearing Ji Suhui, a madman, say that he wants to kill your whole family. Even the Chenyuan sword sect cannot do it, because any cultivation force has low-level monks who are not strong. And these low-level monks are the future of this force. Ji Suhui's words almost mean that he will never die. Not only Chen Daoxian. Even Ji Yenyuan's complexion changed drastically after hearing this. He didn't even care about his own life and death at the moment, and shouted, "Everyone from the Chen family, this is what Ji Suhui said alone, and it has nothing to do with my Ji family." Ji Yenyuan knew that the Chen family was not without background. If Ji Suhui really dared to slaughter the city, he would definitely die. Chen Daoxian glanced at him coldly. Ji Yenyuan only felt like falling into an ice cellar. Until Chen Daoxian looked away, he showed a relieved expression. Immediately, his face froze. This Chen Daoxian has become stronger again, and he has suddenly reached the golden stage. Chen Daoxian didn't care about Ji Yenyuan's psychological changes, only to see him flashing and appearing directly in front of Ji Suhui. Ji Suhui was completely crazy now. Seeing someone blocking him in front of him, he didn't even look, and punched Chen Daoxian directly. Thunder flickered on his fists, and the momentum was pressing, making Chen Daoxian's magic robe screeching. Chapter 304. Boom! A loud explosion. A golden figure bounced back at a very fast speed, and then hit a transparent barrier, making a dull sound. Chen Daoxian stood in the air, looking indifferently at Ji Suhui, who was blasted 100 meters away by his palm and hit the space barrier. Cough cough. Ji Suhui staggered to his feet and looked around in horror. Space cage. Law realm. Ji Suhui paused word by word and gritted his teeth. This move Chen Daoxian used was exactly the one used by the master of Jinhai Palace to suppress the real person of Xinjue with a snap of his fingers, the space cage. Being able to use this trick proves that Chen Daoxian's Dao realm has made a huge breakthrough when he broke through the golden core stage. The so-called law realm refers to a sword cultivator's understanding of a certain sword intent, reaching a very deep level. At this level, it is no longer possible to simply use sword intent to describe it, but to call it the law. When a monk comprehends the Tao, he is essentially comprehending the Taoist law. As the so-called Tao 3000, it means that Tao is composed of various laws. Only when a cultivator has reached this point in his practice can he be said to have taken the first step on the road of comprehending the Tao. As for the sword intent in the first four major Tao realms, it is only a prerequisite for comprehending the law, not even the skin of the law. The first time Chen Daoxian's space sword intent was transformed into space law, the space star on the star sword Tao map in his Dantian skyrocketed nearly 100 times in an instant. Compared with the sword intent stars transformed by the Siyu sword intent next to him, it was hundreds of times larger. Siyu star is next to the space star, like an inconspicuous satellite. If you don't pay attention to it, you will even ignore its existence. Inside the space cage, Ji Suhui looked at Chen Daoxian resolutely, raised his head and said, "What about the realm of laws? After all, you are just a cultivator of the Jindan period, and I am the third elder of the Ji family of the Yuanying family. You dare to kill me? Hear this." Guanhai Xianqing cast more gazes around. Ji Suhui forced his way into Guanhai Xianqing, which caused a huge commotion in Guanhai Xianqing. It's just that the city guards have been maintaining order in the city, so there is no turmoil. However, as a large family in Sangzhou, the Chen family has a large number of loose cultivators in Guanhai Xianqing. Therefore, there are also many people who watch the fun and don't think it's a big deal. Just like when the mermen attacked the immortal city of Guang'an Prefecture, a large number of scattered cultivators gathered to watch. This time Ji Suhui forced his way into the Guanhai Xianqing industrial zone, and there were still many scattered cultivators onlookers. Don't say anything about the Jindan cultivator fighting a group of Zifu cultivators. The risk of onlookers is high, and there are still many loose cultivators who are not afraid of death in the cultivation world. Feeling the gazes, they came from all directions in the city. Chen Daoxian said with a cold face, "Ji Suhui, you forcibly broke into my Chen family's important place today, provoked first, and then even uttered mad words to destroy my Chen family. Such a frenzied act, not only my Chen family cultivator took a photo to witness it, but also watched it. The thousands of loose cultivators in Haixian City are also watching." Speaking, Chen Daoxian glanced at Ji Yenyuan, and said coldly, "You just said that Ji Suhui's trip was all done by him alone, and it has nothing to do with your Ji family, right?" Hearing this, Ji Yenyuan's face turned pale immediately. He cupped his hands, trembling and speechless. "Senior, I. You just have to answer, yes or no." Yes. Ji Yenyuan bit his head and closed his eyes. Good. Chen Daoxian turned his head and looked at Ji Suhui. You heard, your Ji family said that you are responsible for everything you did before, and it has nothing to do with the Ji family. Now I kill you, what else do you have to say? Chen Daoxian. Ji Suhui's eyes were split. How dare you? I am the third elder of the Ji family. If you kill me, my ancestor of the Ji family will never let go. However, before Ji Suhui finished speaking, Chen Daoxian stretched out his palm, and then squeezed it hard. The next moment, the space cage collapsed rapidly. Seeing the collapse of the space cage, Ji Suhui naturally did not want to sit still. He was completely mad, and all kinds of desperate secret techniques that he did not want to perform before were madly displayed. Sure enough, under Ji Suhui's desperate efforts, his attack power skyrocketed again. The speed at which the space cage collapsed also quickly slowed down. Seeing this scene, Ji Suhui was overjoyed. There was a show. As the top real person on the Jindan real person list, Ji Suhui's strength is not as good as the real Jindan real person in the Law realm. However, Ji Suhui found that although Chen Daoxian was a Jindan cultivator, his cultivation was only in the early stage of Jindan. This means that with Chen Daoxian's mana, the fifth major Dao realm, the space cage of the Law realm, will definitely consume a lot of mana. Such a violent consumption of mana, with Chen Daoxian's initial cultivation of Jindan, may not be able to hold on to much breathing. As long as he tried his best to survive these few breaths, when Chen Daoxian was out of mana, he would have the opportunity to take advantage of his unpreparedness to escape. As for taking advantage of Chen Daoxian's lack of mana, Ji Suhui had not thought about it, but immediately gave up on the idea. In the group of monks at the level of Jindan real person, they also made a rough division of the strength of Jindan stage. Among the Jindan cultivators, the weakest are naturally the cultivators who have just passed the Jindan Thunder Tribulation and have not even completed the tempering of mana. This kind of cultivator's strength is only different from the fake alchemy cultivator. It belongs to the weakest existence among the cultivators in the Jindan stage, and even some cultivators of Tianjiao Zifu are stronger than this kind of Jindan cultivator. For example, Zhou Mingho, the head of the Zhou family, is probably at this level. The strength of the Jindan cultivator is further improved. Naturally, after the Jindan Thunder Tribulation, the mana tempering is completed, and the realm of the avenue is stable. Generally speaking, after Jindan cultivator has survived the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation, the Dao realm can reach the third stage of star transformation. Except for the special state that has just passed through the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation, the Golden Core cultivator of this level is the strength of the lowest Golden Core cultivator under normal circumstances, that is, the strength of the ordinary Golden Core early stage cultivator. As for the future, in the middle stage of Jindan, including the division of strength between monks in the later stage of Jindan. The reference is not the cultivation base, but the Dao realm. Only when the realm of the two Golden Core cultivators is at the same level, will they see the difference in their cultivation bases. Because at the Golden Core stage, the cultivation base only represents the gap between the two mana, and the realm of the Great Road is not only related to the strength of the mana after tempering, but also to the increase of the attack power. This is the reference that plays a decisive role in the strength of Jindan cultivator. Of course, generally speaking, monks with high Dao realm will definitely have higher cultivation. After all, the improvement of the Dao realm is more difficult than the improvement of the cultivation base. The treasures that monks can quickly improve their cultivation are rare in this world, but some big sects can always find them. But the treasures that quickly improve the realm of the Dao are really unheard of in this world. This is also the reason why Chen Daoxian was extremely shocked when he saw that the Xingqian Kendo map could find another way and use the means of refining treasures to improve the realm of the Dao. In the group of Jindan real people, the cultivation base reaches the middle and late stages of Jindan, and the realm of the Dao reaches the first and middle stages of the Dao domain, which basically belongs to the strong among the cultivators of the Jindan stage. When the cultivation base reaches the late stage of Jindan, and the Dao realm reaches the high level of Dao domain realm, it is called the peak of Jindan. Jindan cultivators generally practice to this level, and they can consider breaking through the nascent soul stage. For example, Jiang Zui, the seventh elder of the Jiang family, is at this level, but Jiang Zui's Dao domain is related to the soul, and it happened to be beaten to death by Chen Daoxian, otherwise Chen Daoxian should not be his opponent at the beginning. And Ji Suhui's strength is even higher than Jiang Zui. Ji Suhui has not only reached the late stage of Jindan, but also the realm of the Tao has reached the high level of the realm of Taoism. What is even more terrifying is that his body refinement cultivation has also reached the peak of the blood-dropping realm. The sum of the three makes Ji Suhui directly listed on the Wangxinghai Jindan reality list, becoming the top Jindan real person in Wangxinghai. At this level of strength, it can be said that in the group of Jindan cultivators, it is usually difficult to meet an opponent. Ji Suhui's status among Jindan cultivators is also very detached. I usually see ordinary Jindan real people, and they are treated as juniors, not commensurate with their peers. Only the top cultivators of Jindan and the top real people at the same level as him were regarded as peers by Ji Suhui. This behavior of his is not arrogant, but an unspoken rule agreed among Jindan cultivators. If the cultivation base does not reach the Jindan stage, they generally do not understand their unspoken rules. But the top real person is not the pinnacle of Jindan cultivators' strength. Among the Jindan cultivators, there is another kind of existence, known as the invincible real man. This kind of cultivator is the truly invincible existence among the Jindan cultivators. Not to mention ordinary Jindan cultivators, even the cultivators in the Yuaning period would not dare to say that they would win if they encountered such an invincible real person. It's just that Jindan cultivators of this level are not only extinct in Wangxinghai, but also extremely rare in Xianyun Prefecture. Therefore, it is usually not within the measurement range of the Jindan cultivators. Speaking of which, a Jindan cultivator from Wanxinghai could be regarded as an invincible real person. That is more than 400 years ago, with the late Jindan cultivation level, he was able to rival the three Yuanying true monarchs of Qianyuan Zhenzong, and he fought to the point of 2 deaths and 1 injury. This kind of terrifying strength that even the ordinary nascent soul true monarch looks up to, can completely call him an invincible existence in the golden core stage. That's exactly what happened. When the real person Shinjue appeared again, Qianyuan Zhenzong attached great importance to it, not only laying down a lot of decoys, but also asking Jinhai Temple, the top-notch true monarch of Yuanying, to take action. Even with so many preparations, he still didn't catch Shinjue Jinren in the first time, but only caught the opponent's immortal clone. In the end, if it wasn't for Chen Daoxuan's deliberate attempts, coupled with Shenju's own carelessness, he would not be able to catch the other party at all. In the hands of the Hall Master of Jinhai Hall, the ordinary Yuaning Jinjuan is probably not his enemy, but he was smashed into the sand by Shinjue Jinren. It can be seen how difficult it is for a terrifying existence that can be evaluated as an invincible and invincible real person. In Ji Suhui's eyes, Chen Daoxuan's strength, although not at the level of an invincible real person, is much stronger than his top real person on the Jindan real person list. With Chen Daoxuan's strength, even on the Jindan real person list, he is still among the best. After all, the realm of law is usually only attained by the true monarch Yuaning. There are very few people in Wanxinghai and even the vast Xianyun province who can reach the realm of laws in the golden core stage. What is even more terrifying is that Ji Suhui can even feel the breath of Jindan thunder tribulation on Chen Daoxian. What does that mean? This means that Chen Daoxian has just passed the golden core thunder tribulation not long ago. It stands to reason that this kind of cultivator is the one with the lowest strength among the Jindan cultivators, but now, the other party has almost forced him to a dead end by relying on the Dao realm of the lower realm. With such a terrifying opponent, how dare Ji Suhui continue to fight recklessly? Desperate means to cultivate to the realm of him and Chen Daoxian, who will be less than the other. He tried his best to escape, so doesn't Chen Daoxian have a secret method to enhance his strength? Bullshit. This is the real reason why Ji Suhui fled for his life and did not dare to fight back. East District. The cultivators of the Chen family's military department all relaxed when they saw their young patriarch take action in person. Especially Chen Fusheng. Chen Fusheng's admiration for Chen Daoxian was almost blind, even though from the outsider's point of view, how could Chen Daoxian, a cultivator in the early stage of Jindan, be the opponent of Ji Suhui, a cultivator in the later stage of Jindan? But in Chen Fuxing's eyes, he believed that Chen Daoxian would not be defeated even if he met Yuan Yingzhenjuan. This confidence is brought about by Chen Daoxuan's miraculous victories time after time. Chen Daoxian didn't know the thoughts of the Chen family, but he could see Ji Suhui's thoughts. Fighting hard? You want to drain my mana? Seeing this, Chen Daoxian almost laughed out loud. As we all know, the Chen family cultivators are not afraid of fighting attrition. Seeing that Ji Suhui was trapped in the space cage with a radius of 10 feet, and frantically used his fists, shoulders, head and other body parts to hit the barriers of the space cage, Chen Daoxian did not continue to instill mana, and just consumed the opponent like this. Although Ji Suhui judged that Chen Daoxian consumed a lot of space to maintain the cage, but he used the secret method to fight for his life, and the consumption could be very low. In only half a stick of incense, Ji Suhui, who was bathed in golden blood, panted and looked at the shrinking space cage, his eyes showing despair. No! How can you have so much mana? Impossible! Impossible! Hearing Ji Suhui's desperate roar, Ji Yenyuan, who was with him, was quite speechless. Chen Daoxian owns the magical artifact of creating the White Lotus, which is not a secret in Wan Xinghai at all. And the third elder of his Ji family seems to be unwilling to know the information of the Chen family and Chen Daoxian at all. Even whenever he reported information about Chen Daoxian, Ji Suhui always waved his hand casually, saying, "What a mere cultivator of Zifu, don't pay too much attention to such words." It is true that for the top real people on the Jindan real person list, no matter how powerful the cultivator of Zifu is, it is not worth caring about. But Chen Daoxian was a terrifying existence who defeated Jiang Zui not long ago. Even so, Ji Suhui still didn't care. Ji Yenyuan suddenly felt that the three elders have today, and they are not wronged. Compared with stupidity and weakness, arrogance is the most deadly. On the field, Chen Daoxian watched his palm collapse into a space cage the size of a glass ball, held it in his hand, and played with it at will. Inside the space cage the size of a glass bead, a little man the size of fingernails is supporting the space cage on all fours, with a ferocious face, who is not Ji Suhui. Chapter 305. Yuanshan Xiancheng. As the largest immortal city in Sangzhou, Taizhou, and Jingzhou, Yuanshan Immortal City is home to tens of millions of monks. It can be called the largest scattered cultivation immortal city in the entire Wangxinghai. As the largest scattered cultivation immortal city in Wangxinghai, Yuanshan Immortal City not only has a huge population, but also has extremely prosperous commerce. This huge immortal city is like a gluttonous beast, crawling at the junction of the three states, swallowing a huge amount of goods every moment. Sky. A spirit boat flying from the direction of Zhangzhou quietly sailed towards the direction of Yuanshan Xiancheng. On the spirit boat, the triangular clan flag that belongs to the Chen family is flying in the wind. Obviously, this spirit boat is from the Chen family in Zhangzhou. Clan brother. On the deck of the spirit boat, a young cultivator cupped his hand towards another cultivator of the Fu character who was wearing a cyan robe. Can we reach a cooperation with Yuanshan Xiancheng with only a few of us on this trip? Hearing this, the cultivator of the Fu character generation in the blue Taoist robe frowned. After a long while, he shook his head and said, "I don't care much anymore. The various types of medicinal pills produced by our 7th industrial zone have been seriously saturated, and the warehouses in Zhangzhou Xiancheng have piled up into mountains. If we don't find new sales channels, we can only stop work in the 7th industrial zone." But the young cultivator suddenly lowered his voice and changed it into a voice transmission of divine sense. But Minister Chen strictly ordered that we must not make decisions on our own when it comes to cooperating with Yuanshan Xiancheng. Hearing this, the cultivator of the blue-colored Taoist robe was suddenly dissatisfied. "You said it too, this is Minister Chen's order. Our Chen family has always listened to the young patriarch. When is it the Minister of Finance's turn to say forget it? Besides, without opening up new sales channels, the clan has already issued an order to temporarily suspend work in the 7th industrial zone. Why? Would you like our 7th industrial zone to stop work? Hearing this, the young monk gritted his teeth. So far, Guanhai Xianqing has established 9 major industrial zones, and each industrial zone has at least dozens or even hundreds of large and small factories. In today's Guanhai Xianqing, not only is there a competitive relationship between each factory, but even each industrial area is also a competitive relationship. Not to mention the Shuanghu Island Industrial Zone for the time being, since the Qin family shifted the industrial focus from the Shuanghu Island Industrial Zone to Guanhai Xianqing, the Shuanghu Island Industrial Zone today is more of a research base. With the support of the Qin family's huge financial, material and human resources, various research institutions such as the Chongping Magical Instrument Research Institute, such as various magic instruments, medicinal herbs, and formations, have sprung up like mushrooms after a rain. After a lapse of 5 years, Qin Daoxian has not been in the family retreat for the past 5 years. The Qin family has undergone earth-shaking changes again. Not only Guanhai Xianqing, but Shuanghu Island, the home of the Qin family, has also changed a lot. In addition to Shuanghu Island, Guanhai Xianqing consists of 9 industrial zones. These 9 industrial zones constitute the industrial core of Guanhai Xianqing. Among them, the 9th industrial zone is the most favored and valued one among all the industrial zones of the Qin family. The heads of other industrial zones have always believed in private that the 9th industrial zone is the real son of the Qin family. That's exactly what happened. The most important and advanced factories, such as the Qinjialingfu factory, the second-order power spirit armor factory, and the high-order pill medicine factory, are all concentrated in the 9th industrial zone. Those of the Qin family who know the inside story know that even if there are problems in the other 8 industrial zones, the Qin family will not be hurt. If there is a problem with the 9th industrial zone in Guanhai Xianqing, then the Qin family will really be destroyed after years of accumulation. However, although the industrialization of Guanhai Xianqing in the past 5 years has been smooth, it also faces huge challenges. The main difficulty is that Guanhai Xianqing produced too many kinds of instruments, medicine pills, and magic talismans. Cangzhou alone cannot digest it at all. At the beginning, Qin Dalian also kept Qin Daoxuan's order in mind and left a soup for the other immortals in Cangzhou. However, under the huge production capacity advantage of Cangzhou Xiancheng's industrialization, Qin Daoxuan's so-called leave a mouthful of soup does not exist at all. The rapid increase in production capacity has brought about the ultimate cost reduction. The existence of Cangzhou Business Alliance has opened up the sales channels of the entire Cangzhou immortal cities. In other words, the major immortal cities in Cangzhou basically compete fairly on the same platform, and there is no trade protection between them. In this way, the advantages of all kinds of goods of the Qin family are too great. Even though the Qin family's various instruments and medicinal pills are not lower in price than other immortals, their goods are of better quality than other immortals due to the advanced production technology of the Qin family's factory. The monks are the most pragmatic group of people. Whether the magic weapon is good or not, how effective the medicinal pill is, not to mention the obvious difference, they can detect even the slightest difference, and vote with their feet in the next purchase process. In this way, even if the Qin family had the intention to leave a mouthful of soup for the great immortal clans in Cangzhou, they would be powerless. Can't the Qin family deliberately lower the quality of their products in order to leave soup for the major immortals? Isn't this smashing your own signboard? Naturally, the Qin family would not do such a stupid thing. Cangzhou is now divided into 2 camps, one is the Zhou family headed by the Zhou family, and the other is the Qin family camp headed by the Qin family. Anyone with discerning eyes knows in their hearts that the outcome of these 2 camps will determine who will call Cangzhou in the future. In the face of the huge interests that determine the fate of the family, the friendship between Qin Daoxian and Zhou Mubai is nothing at all. This point, whether it is Qin Daoxian or Zhou Mubai, is well aware of it. The families in the Zhou family's camp, except for some families who are really optimistic about the Zhou family's ability to dominate Cangzhou, the rest of the family are all robbed of their business and interests by the Qin family, and they hate the Qin family's immortal clan. Among the various forces in the immortal world, only interests are eternal. When Qin Daoxian was trying to turn the tide, They regarded Qin Daoxian as a morning star and a savior, but when the interests of the two sides were in conflict, they could not wait to strangle this savior with their own hands. But even if it offends so many families and occupies most of the CZ market, the consumption of Guanhai Xiancheng's production capacity is still a drop in the bucket. The pain of industrialization lies in this. The problem of sales caused by the explosion of production capacity is a headache for any industrial country in the previous life. In Qin Daoxuan's previous life, countries took different measures in order to digest their own industrial production capacity. Some use colonies to digest domestic production capacity, while others solve this problem through globalization. But whether it is the brutal colonial system or the gentle globalization policy, the essence is to digest production capacity through trade. Use advanced productive forces to exploit backward productive forces. What Qin Daoxian thought at first was to walk on two legs. The so-called walking on two legs is to carry out brutal colonization against the stubborn forces, and peaceful trade with the forces that are willing to open up commerce and trade. This is basically Qin Daoxuan's different strategies for the real demon world and Wan Xinghai in the future. Yuanqin Xiancheng is the first step of Qin Daoxuan's warm strategy. Of course, both brutal colonization and moderate peaceful trade are based on strength or force. If the Qin family's force is insufficient, it is a lamb to be slaughtered. This is also what Qin Daoxian said: cooperation with Yuanqin Xiancheng must wait until he breaks through the golden core stage. Because Qin Daoxian knew that only when he broke through to the golden core stage, with various trump cards, would he have the confidence to wrestle with true monarch Yuanying. Only at this point, his Zhangzhou Qin family is the real top clan of Wan Xinghai. The facts also developed as Qin Daoxian expected. But Qin Daoxian is not after all. He expected the development trend of the Qin family. The only thing he didn't expect was that someone in the Qin family did not listen to Qin Daolian's orders and expanded the sales market for Guanhai Xiancheng without authorization. Moreover, the vision of the person in charge of the 7th industrial zone is also the same as that of Qin Daoxian, and he chose Yuanqin Xiancheng as a breakthrough in the sales market. It's just that Qin Daoxian wanted to discuss cooperation with Jinjuan Yuanqin directly after his golden core stage. The Qin family, the person in charge of the 7th industrial zone, wanted to discuss cooperation with a Jindan real person under the jurisdiction of Yuanqin Xiancheng. This is the scene of the Qin family cultivator secretly rushing to Yuanqin Xiancheng at the beginning. Although the vision of the head of the industrial zone is good, it is not long-term enough. From the perspective of the 7th industrial zone, what he did was right, but from the perspective of the entire Qin family, his actions may bring disaster to the Qin family. After all, the large-scale production of medicinal pills represents huge benefits. If the outside world knows this kind of interest, I am afraid that even the master of the Wangxinghai like Chenyuan Jianzong will be moved. Even if the outside world is only guessing, such a big benefit is enough for a true monarch nascent soul to test the truth of the Qin family. Once this happens, it will undoubtedly be a disaster for the Qin family. But when Qin Daoxian broke through the golden core stage, the situation was very different. If Qin Daoxian breaks through the golden core stage, with his various trump cards, he will not be afraid of the ordinary Yuaning Jinjuan. The more powerful true monarch nascent soul, hesitant to go to the Xinhai palace behind Qin Daoxian, will not take it lightly after weighing the pros and cons. As for the top nascent soul true monarch, he doesn't look down on this benefit. Regardless of the huge benefits involved in mass-producing magical medicinal pills, for top-notch nascent soul true monarchs at the level of Xinhai Hall's Hall Master, there is no shortage of spirit stones. No matter how many spirit stones there are, they can't make them break through to the level of Yuanqin Daojun. What's the use of pursuing hard? For top-notch nascent soul true monarchs like the Hall Master of Xinhai Palace, what really moved their hearts was a treasure that could improve their strength, preferably a treasure that could help them improve their avenues. For example, the Avenue Stone tablet that the Master of Xinhai Temple obtained from Qin Daoxian. In the view of the Hall Master of Xinhai Palace, even if he were to give him all the spiritual stones in this world to exchange for the space law and this Avenue Stone tablet, he would not change it. In the eyes of this top real person, there is not much difference between a spirit stone and a stone. How could it possibly go to great lengths to industrialize? What productivity to develop? Their goal is to break through to the primordial spirit stage, to transcend tribulation and become an immortal. In front of Yuanchen Xianqing, the cultivator of the Qin family stopped the family's spirit boat at the location dedicated to birthing the spirit boat. Everyone just flew off the spirit boat. A female cultivator in the purple house wearing a golden robe flew over with a few entourage. You are the cultivators of the Qin family. The female cultivator of the purple house in the golden robe glanced at everyone coldly and said casually. Exactly, the cultivator of the Qin family in Xia Cangzhou, Qin Furong, came here to ask the real person of Juk. This is the invitation from Xia. With that said, Qin Furong respectfully handed over a golden letter of worship. Jindan Jinren, of course, can't be seen by any cultivator of Zifu if he wants to. The female cultivator in the golden robe took the invitation, glanced at it, and nodded. It is indeed the invitation of a real friend, but I have to remind everyone that real people are busy, and it is not something you can see if you want. Seeing this, Qin Furong immediately understood, and quietly handed over a storage bag, and said with a smile, I hope the fairy will say a few words in front of Master Juk. The golden-robed female cultivator calmly took the storage bag, her divine sense swept over quickly, and a smile appeared on her frosty face. She glanced at Qin Furong with deep meaning, and said, Friend Daoist has a heart. It should be, it should be. Qin Furong bowed his hands again and again. Under the guidance of the golden-robed female cultivator, everyone in the Qin family quickly stepped into Yuanchen Xianqing. Obviously, this is the first time for the Qin family to come to Yuanchen Xianqing. Although Guanhai Xianqing has developed well over the years, when it comes to the prosperity of commerce and population size, Guanhai Xianqing is not as good as Yuanchen Xianqing. Along the way, the Qin family cultivator, like Grandma Lu entering the Grand View Garden, was curious about all kinds of novelties in Yuanchen Xianqing, which made the female entourage behind the golden-robed cultivator burst into laughter. Because they found that although the cultivators of the Qin family were all high in cultivation, basically like their masters, they had reached the purple mansion stage, but they looked like all the hairy boys, and they were not calm at all. Cough cough. Qin Furong, who was headed by him, coughed, and everyone in the Qin family calmed down a little. In fact, these female entourages are not clear. The Qin family monks are not like Maotu boys, they are clearly Maotu boys. The youngest of them, less than 20 years old. A Zifu cultivator who is less than 20 years old has such a treasure as the essence of vitality. Otherwise, it is impossible for Wan Xinghai to have this kind of abnormality. Arrive. In front of a luxurious and spectacular spiritual mansion, the golden-robed female cultivator stopped. Everyone, I'm going to ask the real person, you are waiting here. There is Fairy Lao. The female cultivator in the golden robe nodded casually, moved her lotus step lightly, and stepped into the spirit palace. Watching the female cultivator leave, the young cultivator behind Qin Furong snorted coldly and said, It's just a cauldron of a real Jindan, but it's so big. Never mind, Qin Furong shook his head, after all, we have something to ask for. The young monk nodded, stopped talking, and waited patiently. In Lingfu. The golden-robed female cultivator just walked into the Lingfu not far away when she bumped into Master Juk head-on. This Juk real person is one of the loose cultivators who were recruited by Yuanchen Jinjuan. The cultivation base is in the middle stage of Jindan, the realm of the Dao is the middle stage of Daoyu, and the strength is above the middle among the cultivators of Jindan. The real Juk is obese. This kind of obese cultivator is extremely rare in the cultivator group. Generally, even if there are cultivators of this size, it is also caused by cultivating special exercises. Real Master Juk was in a hurry at the moment, and rushed out disheveled. Really, what's wrong? Seeing the anxious expression of Master Juk, the golden-robed woman changed her cold and arrogant look in front of outsiders, and asked Zhao Didi. Reality Juk saw the golden-robed female cultivator, his face sank, and he reprimanded, If you don't accompany me to practice well, where are you going to hang out? Hearing the word cultivation, a look of unnaturalness and hatred flashed across the golden-robed nun's face. It's just that the real person Juk obviously has something important to do, and at this time, he has no intention to teach the golden-robed female cultivator a lesson. Forget it, Jinjuan Yuanchen wants to entertain a distinguished guest from Cangzhou. He ordered me to come and accompany you. You should wait at home. Having said that, he wants to leave. As everyone knows, when the golden-robed female cultivator saw this battle, her mind moved. She gently took the arm of the real Juk, and said softly, "Really, why don't you bring your concubine to meet the world?" The golden-robed female cultivator said while looking at him with charming eyes. Being pressed against the soft body of the golden-robed female cultivator, and then being agitated by her seductive eyes, Jinren Juk unconsciously swayed in his heart. He still didn't know the plan of this golden-robed female cultivator. I saw Master Juk laughing loudly, slapped the golden-robed female cultivator on the buttocks suddenly, and said, "What a hoot, if you can really win the favor of that noble guest from Cangzhou, it is really a blessing for Master Ben. Let's go together." The concubine obeys. The golden-robed woman Xiao Yingying gave her a gift, making her even more charming. At this moment, she had long forgotten that the Chen family cultivator, who was waiting outside the Lingfu, rose into the sky with the light of Master Juk. Outside Lingfu, Chen Furong and the others were waiting patiently, until they saw Master Juk and the female cultivator in the golden robe escape, and then they all turned ugly. "Brother, look!" Chen Furong looked in the direction of the young cultivator's fingers, and his face became more gloomy. "Come with me." Chen Furong immediately set up the escape light and chased after the real person Juk. As a city with a population of tens of millions, Yuanshan Xianqing naturally also has a forbidden space magic circle, but this magic circle is invalid for monks above the Zifu period. Therefore, in the fairy city, you can often see the light passing by. Chapter 306. The speed of Jindan cultivators' escape was astonishing. Chen Furong and other Chen family cultivators rushed to catch up, but they still couldn't catch up with the real person Juk. Can only hang far behind each other. Sudden. Yuanshan Xiancheng is a masterpiece of fairy music, and the strange floral fragrance is refreshing. Immediately afterwards, over Yuanshan Xiancheng, a slender bird with colorful feathers pulled a gorgeous purple car and walked slowly in the sky. Colorful Phoenix. That's Xinjuan Yuanshan's Ziyu car. Using a fifth-order magic weapon as a vehicle, it is indeed the most luxurious sanctuary true monarch in Wanxinghai. What is the fifth-order magic weapon? That multicolored demon phoenix is the real treasure of Yuanshan Jinjuan. It is rumored that this multicolored demonic phoenix of Yuanshan Jinjuan has the bloodline of the ancient 9 phoenixes. A powerful nascent soul true monarch. Fellow Taoists said, even if the 5-colored demon phoenix has not yet transformed, its strength is comparable to a real person on the golden core list. Hearing this, the scattered cultivators who were watching below couldn't help nodding their heads. Since the colorful demon phoenix pulls the cart, the person sitting in this frame must be Jinjuan and his old man. Which distinguished guest from Cangzhou is he who deserves to be greeted by Jinjuan and his old man? Hearing this, all the cultivators looked at him in surprise. Seeing everyone looking at him with this kind of eyes, this loose cultivator couldn't help but feel a little strange, and he cupped his hands around him and said, "I'm going to say something wrong, why are you all looking at me like this?" At this time, a loose cultivator who was quite close to him said, "Dao Yuang has been in retreat for the past year in order to break through the late stage of foundation building. He doesn't know about the recent major events in Cangzhou, so don't be surprised." Hearing this, everyone nodded in understanding. At this moment, a beautiful-looking female nun stood up and said, "About a month ago, an earth-shattering event happened in Cangzhou." Oh? This sentence instantly aroused the interest of the monk surnamed Wang. Wanxinghai has a wide range, and it is difficult for other states to know what happens in each state. The last major event in Cangzhou that was known to the entire Wanxinghai was the fall of Zenangwan. Even the corpse tide in Cangzhou is not a big deal for other states. After all, the corpse tide seems to be huge, but firstly, most of the zombies have no spiritual wisdom, and secondly, the cultivation base of zombies usually reaches its peak in the Zifu period. The existence of the Zifu period was in Cangzhou. Looking at the other states of Wangxinghai, a cultivator of the Jindan family was dispatched at random, and the corpse tide was calmed down. From this, it can be seen how weak Cangzhou is compared to other states in Wangxinghai. Wangxinghai consists of 27 states, of which the larger states, such as Yuzhou, Dingzhou, Taizhou, etc., all have the Yuanying family in charge. And some states with a slightly smaller territory also have the Jindan family united. And a state like Cangzhou, where even the Jindan family has only the Yi family, is indeed relatively rare. Therefore, in terms of strength, Cangzhou is ranked at the bottom of the entire Wangxinghai. Of course, that was the former Cangzhou. Now, with the rise of the Qin family, Cangzhou is starting to look a little different. In the crowd, Cultivator Zhang stared at the female cultivator intently. The female cultivator continued, "A genius cultivator has been born in Cangzhou." Genius monk? The monk surnamed Zhang disagreed. In Wangxinghai, there were many more geniuses. But let alone become the true monarch of nascent soul, even if they can survive the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation, how many geniuses can truly become real people? Thinking of this, the monk surnamed Zhang pouted. Cangzhou is a small place with a small territory and few monks. What kind of genius can be born? Do not. The female cultivator shook her head solemnly. This time, Daoyu Zhang, you are wrong. The genius born in Cangzhou this time is no trivial matter. His name is Chen Daoxian. Zhang Dao, you must have heard of his name. Chen Daoxian. The cultivator surnamed Zhang was talking about the name. Suddenly, he remembered something and clapped his hands. I remember the most recent issue of the Zifu Tianjiao list. It seems that this person is also called Chen Daoxian. Hearing this, the friend next to him slapped the storage bag and took out a bound booklet from the storage bag. The cover of the booklet reads, Zifu Tianjiao list, in large characters. Gently opening the book, the first person in the line is Chen Daoxian's name. Zifu Tianjiao ranked first, the head of the Qin family in Cangzhou, Chen Daoxian. Introduction to the record. In the Battle of the Corpse Tide in Cangzhou, we turned the tide and resisted the overwhelming majority of the corpse tide. Later, in a battle, he fought against more than a dozen top-ranked Zifu players. After the unified assessment of Qianyuan Jianzong, it was listed as the top of the Zifu Tianjiao list. The monk surnamed Zhang took the book and kept nodding. You said Chen Daoxian, but this person? I didn't expect that I would retreat for a year, and Fairy Qiao, the young sect master of Qianyuan Sword Sect, had already broken through to the Golden Core stage. Since Chen Daoxian has become the number one in the Zifu Tianjiao list, this list should be updated soon, right? As he said that, he flipped through the date on the back of the book and frowned. This is the list of Zifu Tianjiao that was updated 3 months ago. I remember that this list sold for 100 spirit stones. Hearing this, the friend surnamed Wu next to him nodded his head. Yes, I did spend so many spirit stones at that time. Hearing this, the female cultivator on the side covered her small mouth and chuckled. Then the money on the Wu Daoyu list is not worth it. Not only Fairy Qiao has broken through to the Golden Core stage, but the top of the Zifu Tianjiao list is also in the half a month ago, it broke through to the Golden Core stage. Jindan real person. When the cultivator surnamed Zhang heard the words, his face was full of envy, but then he frowned again. But, this Qinjinren is gratifying to break through to the Golden Core stage, but it won't cause trouble in our Yuanqin Xianqing. Everyone knows it, right? Do you think that only Yuanqin Xianqing knows? The female cultivator shook her head. The cultivator surnamed Zhang looked blank. Is it possible that there is another Jindan real person, and the entire Wangxinghai knows about it? Don't say there is one more real person Jindan. Even if we have one more real master of Yuanying in Wangxinghai, it will not be so sensational, right? This time, not only the cultivator Zhang, but others also nodded. The female cultivator simply said, Daoyu Zhang, you are right, not only are Yuanqin Xianqing, but now the entire Wangxinghai is probably discussing this new Jindan period Qinjinren. Hearing this, the monk surnamed Zhang became even more puzzled. He hurriedly cupped his hands and said, Please also ask Fairy Luo to clarify the doubts. Seeing the cultivator surnamed Zhang begging for mercy, the female cultivator surnamed Luo no longer betrayed her, and said directly, "Half a month ago, the real blood slaughtered the Qin family and made trouble in the Qin family's Guanhai Xianqing, and was turned over by this real Qin. The palm is suppressed." Etc. The cultivator surnamed Zhang raised his head quickly. "The real blood slaughter you said was the one on the battlefield of Izumo." Hearing this, the female cultivator surnamed Luo seemed to be very contemptuous of this real blood slaughter, and she curled her lips. "We Wan Xinghai call the real blood slaughter, besides Ji Suhui, the third elder of the Ji family, who else?" "He." The cultivator surnamed Zhang frowned even deeper. "Although the real blood slaughter is brutal, he is the top real person in the real Jindan real person list. How can a new Jindan cultivator in the Qinjin district be able to defeat the opponent?" No wonder the monk surnamed Zhang was puzzled. If any monk came here, he wouldn't understand what's going on here. These low-level monks may not be very clear about the strength of the ordinary Zifu and Jindan monks. But they know one thing, that is, those who can be on the Zifu Tianjiao list and the Jindan real person list must be in existence far beyond the same level. Therefore, the monk surnamed Zhang was so puzzled. I'm not too sure. Anyway, Yuanqin Xianqing is rumored. After our Yuanqin Jinjuan heard about this, we bluntly said that this Qin Dao Xian will definitely become Yuanying Jinjuan. Not only that, our true monarch also said, this Qin Dao Xian even has the potential to become the top nascent soul true monarch. Top nascent soul true monarch. The cultivator surnamed Zhang was shocked. Wan Xinghai monk, talking about the top Yuanying Jinjuan, the first thing everyone thinks of is not the Chen Yuan sword sect master, nor the Jinhai palace hall master, but Yuan Yingzhen, who has been sitting in the largest immortal gate in Izumo for a long time, Lin Wuguan. Your Majesty, Lord Linwu. In the war between Wan Xinghai and Izumo, the reason why Wan Xinghai in the back was calm was because of the important towns of Xianguan established by Qianyuan Jianzong in Izumo. Among all the important towns in Xianguan, Lin Wuguan is the most important. Compared with Linwu Pass, the Jinan Pass lost by the Zhangzhou cultivators is not worth mentioning at all. If the Immortal Pass lost by Wan Xinghai was Linwu Pass, not Jinan Pass, then the army of monks from the Shenqing Dao League would be able to go straight in, not only to recover large areas of lost soil, but also to directly threaten Wan Xinghai from the sea. At that time, the offensive and defensive situation of the two sides will change in an instant, and Wan Xinghai will also be caught in a precarious situation. No matter how strong the Qianyuan sword sect was, in the final analysis, there were two major sects standing behind the Izumo kingdom. Whether it is Xianyang sect or Qingwei Taoism, in terms of strength, they are not under the Qianyuan sword sect. Qianyuan Jianzong can fight with one enemy and two for so long, and still has the upper hand. It can only be said that the time and place are favorable to people, and they are all on the side of Qianyuan Jianzong. Once the Shenqing Dao League seizes the opportunity to gain the upper hand, coupled with the hidden dangers within the Qianyuan sword sect, Wan Xinghai will really fall into a state of doom. At that time, the major immortal races based in Wan Xinghai can only be reduced to bereaved dogs. This is not only the major immortal clan, but even many far-sighted loose cultivators can see it. As cultivator Wan Xinghai, everyone is now a grasshopper on a rope. Looking at the Izumo cultivators who were captured after the defeat, the Wan Xinghai cultivator knew how tragic the end would be if they were defeated. Once Wan Xinghai falls, high-level monks still have the possibility of escaping, and these low-level monks, in this vast Wan Xinghai, have no choice but to wait for death. As for escaping, how could ordinary qi cultivating cultivators and foundation building cultivators cross this vast sea of stars with their own strength? Besides, even if he crossed the Wan Xinghai, he still came to the nest of the enemy Izumo, and the end was even worse. Therefore, cultivator Wan Xinghai has such reverence for Linwu Jinjuan, who has been guarding Linwu Pass for hundreds of years. Hearing this, everyone stopped talking. After all, they are just a group of foundation-building scattered cultivators. In the eyes of the cultivators in the Qi refining period, they are seniors, but in fact, they know very little about the advanced cultivators. If Qianyuan Jianzong did not launch the two major lists, the Zifu Tianjiao list and the Jindan real person list, These low-level monks don't even know that there are so many top high-level monks in Wanxinghai. As for Yuaning Jinjuan, everyone knows even less. Zifu cultivator and Jindan cultivator, Chenyuan contact can also make a list to rank them and increase their fame. But Yuaning Jinjuan, especially the top-notch Yuaning Jinjuan, such as Lingwu Jinjuan, Jinhai Palace Hall Master, they are all Wanxinghai's biggest cards. Chenyuan Jianzong usually doesn't have enough time to keep these people secret, so how can he use their information to publicize them everywhere? Just like Chenyuan Jianzong will not know the details of the top Yuaning Jinjuan of the Xianqing Dao League. On the one hand, these top true monarchs are too powerful. No matter what kind of secrets the two sides send, it is impossible to hit the side of this existence without being discovered. On the other hand, these top true monarchs took very few shots, and even if they did, they would not do their best at all. Most of the time they were in retreat and cultivation. In this way, whether it is Chenyuan Jianzong or Xianqing Dao League, they will not dare to go all out until they are sure that their own side has overwhelming strength. Afraid of each other. This is the real status quo of Chenyuan Jianzong and Xianqing Taoist alliance. Below, at the scattered repair gate of Yuanshan Xianqing, seeing Jinjuan Yuanshan personally come forward to welcome this distinguished guest from Cangzhou, the whole Xianqing began to boil. High in the sky, the Chen family cultivator and the others who followed behind real Master Juk noticed that the group of scattered cultivators were boiling and cheering, and they were a little unclear. "Brother, look!" Chen Furong looked in the direction of the young cultivator's fingers, and it turned out that it was the real person Juk who stopped in front of a colorful car and handed over to the car. Due to the distance, Chen Furong could only see that the other party's gesture was somewhat respectful, but he didn't know what Master Juk was talking about. "Brother, what should I do?" The young cultivator of the Chen family was a little anxious. He could see that in Yuanshan Xianqing, even Master Juk was a respectful existence. There was no one else, so it must be Yuanshan Jinjuan, who had a great reputation among loose cultivators. Although the young cultivator of the Chen family was impulsive, he knew in his heart that a cultivator of the Purple House in his area rushed up so rashly and rammed into the real monarch's car. Even if the real monarch Yuanshan killed him on the spot, no one else could say a word. "Come." Seeing everyone looking at him, Chen Furong pondered for a moment and said, "You guys are waiting here, I'll go over alone." "Brother, why don't you count?" "No," Chen Furong shook his head, "for the sake of this cooperation, the gift we gave is not clear and must not be missed. I don't want to write down this shameful stroke for myself in the history of the family in the future." After saying that, Chen Furong took a deep breath and flew directly towards true monarch Yuanshan's car. "Who?" Before Chen Furong approached, there was a sound of scolding outside the car of true monarch Yuanshan. "Slow!" Just as the accompanying disciple was about to take action, Jinjuan Yuanshan's voice came from the car, "Ask, what's the matter?" Outside the car, a disciple accompanying him bowed and said, "Yes, master." After finishing speaking, the disciple flew over to meet Chen Furong's escaping light, raised his hand and said, "Stop here." Chapter 307. This fellow Daoist is polite. Chen Furong looked at the Zifu cultivator who was blocking his way in front of him, and bowed his hands. "Who are you, and why did you collide with the real monarch?" The Purple Manor cultivator stared at it, his eyes were quite bad. Seeing the other party's unkind eyes, Chen Furong bowed slightly, lowered his posture and said, "Fellow Daoist, I didn't intend to collide with the real monarch and the law driver." At the moment, Chen Furong told the story of what happened. When the cultivator in the Purple House in front of Chen Furong heard that the people under the Master of Juk were bribed and incapable of doing things, a look of disgust flashed in his eyes. Although true monarch Yuanshan opened up the Yuanshan Immortal City, he was born in a loose cultivator after all, and his background was too shallow compared to those of the Yuanian clan. The vast majority of Jindan real people under Jinjuan Yuanshan were recruited loose cultivator Jindan cultivators. There is only one Jindan cultivator who was really cultivated by Jinjuan Yuanshan himself. Most of his disciples are cultivators of the Zifu period, and even those of the Foundation establishment period. Yuanshan Jinjuan wants to wait until his own disciples grow up, at least hundreds of years. It is by no means an easy matter for a Zifu cultivator to break through to the golden core stage. Even a top-notch cultivator like Fairy Qiao in Zifu took nearly 100 years to cultivate all the way to the golden core stage. Even Qindao Xian, who is a plug-in and has many adventures, took nearly 50 years to cultivate to the realm of Jindan. Other monks did not have as many opportunities as Qindao Xian. Normally, a cultivator can break through to the golden core stage before the 500-year lifespan limit of the Zifu stage, even if he is a genius. If he breaks through to the golden core stage in 300 years, he will definitely be listed on the Zifu Tianjiao list. If a golden pill can be achieved in about 100 years, at least the top 3 Tianjiao in the Zifu Tianjiao list can do it. It has only been more than 200 years since true monarch Yuanqin established Yuanqin Immortal City. During this period, he was developing Immortal City, cultivating disciples, and attracting scattered cultivators Jindan cultivator. In addition, he has to spare time and take into account his own cultivation. In the scattered cultivation, he is the only one in the entire Wangxinghai front. Although Xinjuan Yuanqin was sitting upright in the chariot, his consciousness had been paying attention to the conversation between Qin Furong and his disciples. The reason why Xinjuan Yuanqin was so concerned was of course not idle, but when he heard Qin Furong introduce himself, he said that he belonged to the Qin family in Cangzhou. And looking at Qin Furong's tone, it seems that they don't know that their young patriarch has broken through to the golden core stage. Coincidentally, half a month ago, when Ji Suhui came to Guanhai Xianqing to make trouble, Qin Furong and the others happened to be driving a spirit boat from Guanhai Xianqing to Yuanqin Xianqing. Just missed the drama of Qindao Xian going out to suppress Ji Suhui. After that, they drove the spirit boat and spent half a month before they rushed from Guanhai Xianqing to Yuanqin Xianqing. During this period of time, Qin Furong and the Qin family cultivators were all on the spirit boat, and they didn't know anything about what was happening in the outside world. Because Qin Furong and others violated Qin Daolian's order after all, so they simply closed the family's communication jade talisman. Unexpectedly, this move perfectly staggered the battle in which Qin Daoxian famously moved Wanxinghai. As the matter fermented, more and more people began to hear about the achievements of the Cangzhou clan chief Qin Daoxian. Even Qin Daoxuan's past experience was picked up by someone with a heart. After all, Qin Daoxian himself is a household name in Cangzhou, and he belongs to a big man with a name and a surname. It is not difficult to inquire about his information. As a result, the monks of Wanxinghai knew that Qin Daoxian had been practicing for less than 50 years. In less than 50 years, he defeated a top real person on the Jindan real person list. This kind of record not only caused discussions between the loose cultivators and the family cultivators of the major immortal clans, but even caused a storm within the Qianyuan sword sect. Many disciples of Qianyuan Jianzong even discussed in private that the talent of Qin Daoxian, the head of the Qin family in Cangzhou, was probably not weaker than that of the most talented disciple in the history of Qianyuan Jianzong, the master of Jinhai Palace, Qin Zhan. Little friend. Qin Furong was talking to the Zifu cultivator in front of him when a gentle voice suddenly came from his ear. At the same time as hearing this voice, a sense of horror from the depths of the soul poured out involuntarily. Qin Furong immediately guessed that this person must be true monarch Yuanqin. Qin Furong didn't expect that his actions would really startle a big man like Yuanqin Jinjuan. True monarch. This time, Qin Furong bowed lower, and the expression on his face became extraordinarily serious. Don't be too polite. With the sound in his ears, Qin Furong involuntarily stood up straight. Next, a burly and tall monk slowly walked out of the purple car. If it is not true monarch Yuanqin, who is he? True monarch. True monarch. Seeing Jinjuan Yuanqin getting off the Dharma drive, the monks accompanying him all bowed and saluted. Seeing this group of cultivators bowing their heads, Qin Furong was shocked, and at the same time, he couldn't help but feel a little envious. The giant tower. Subordinates are here. The round figure of the real person Juk suddenly flew out of the crowd. Glancing at Master Juk, Master Yuanqin continued, "Is what this little friend said just now true?" This. Real Master Juk couldn't help but feel tight in his heart. Even if this matter was true, he would not be guilty of death. But over the years, he has worked in Yuanshan Xiancheng, and I don't know how much oil and water he has made. If it is more serious, Yuanshan Jinjuan is widowed by him at this moment, and no one can say a word. Seeing the trembling appearance of the real person Juk, Yuanshan Jinjuan waved his hand gently, and saw a beautiful female cultivator with a beautiful figure and a golden robe, who was caught by him from the crowd. It was you who took the bribe, right? True monarch, Yuanshan said lightly. True monarch, concubine body, concubine body. The golden-robed female cultivator was so frightened that she couldn't help but look at Master Juk with pleading eyes. It's a pity that the real person Juk can't protect himself now. How can he take care of her cauldron? What's more, the original identity of this Ding furnace was just a prisoner of war in Izumo. It's just that this female cultivator of the Izumo country, with her means and beautiful appearance, walked step by step to the real person of Juk, and climbed the big tree of the real person of Juk. True monarch. The real Juk stood up. This woman was originally a prisoner of war from the Izumo kingdom. Originally, her subordinates thought she was of good nature and wanted to give her a chance, but I didn't expect that this woman would be ruthless, and she would actually break the rules of the real monarch, so it. As he said that, Master Juk was heartbroken, facing the unbelievable gaze of the golden-robed female cultivator, and punched the opponent's head. The splashes of yellow and white objects were wrapped in the mana of the real person Juk, which did not disturb the formation of the team that greeted Qin Daoxian at all. Taking a deep look at Master Juk, Jinjuan Yuanshan suddenly said, "You're lucky, let's not do this next time." After all, Jinjuan Yuanshan looked at the sky. I see. A jet-black immortal boat, from far to near, flew over from the horizon in the direction of Yuanshan Xiancheng. Malong? Qin Furong had a shocked expression on his face. The Malong is one of the family spirit boats of the Qin family, compared to the ordinary spirit boats that Qin Furong and others ride on. The rank of the Malong is much higher, reaching the 4th rank low rank, and it is the main immortal boat purchased by the Qin family from the Qianyuan sword sect. Using this kind of immortal boat to travel, the speed is not much worse than that of Jindan cultivator. It takes up to 3 days to arrive here from Guanhai Xiancheng. True monarch Yuanshan carried his hands on his back and looked at the astonishing Malong number, and couldn't help sighing. The Qin family, after all, they have become the overlords of Zhangzhou. Chapter 308. Boom! The huge Malong stopped, and the air waves swept through, making everyone's robes screeching. On the Moron. Standing at the head was a young monk with sword eyebrows and star eyes. The monk Jun Lang had a smile on his face, and he exuded an air of confidence. Next to the young cultivator, stood 3 slender female cultivators with beautiful faces. These 4 are Qin Daoxian, Luo Li, Qin Daoyan, and Yang Gongwan, the head of the Yang family who first joined the Qin family. As the Malong stopped, everyone cast escape light and flew out of the spirit boat. Qin Daoxian looked at Jinjuan Yuanshan in front of him, smiled and said, "Junior Qin Daoxian, I have seen Jinjuan." Ha ha! Jinjuan Yuanshan took a step forward, and his figure instantly appeared in front of Qin Daoxian. He looked at the young cultivator in front of him and said with emotion, "I have to admit that over the years, you are the only cultivator who has misunderstood me." After that, he solemnly bowed his hands to Qin Daoxian. "In Ziyuanshan, I have seen fellow Daoist Chen. True monarch, this." Qin Daoxian was a little flattered, and the dignified true monarch Yuanying actually gave him the salute of his peers. Obviously, this true monarch Yuanshan treated him as a cultivator of his peers. Seeing that Qin Daoxian was a little stunned, Jinjuan Yuanshan said with a smile, "Although Dao Yu Chen is very surprised by the group of Zengxian Yuanji, he just thinks that you are a junior with extraordinary talent, and he didn't take it seriously at that time. But since you have stepped into the realm of law now, it proves that you have half-footed on the threshold of nascent soul. It is not an exaggeration to call you a friend in advance." In addition to having a direct teacher-inheriting relationship, cultivators all rely on their cultivation base to determine their seniority. Qin Daoxuan's Dao realm has reached the 5th level law realm, and he already has the qualifications to discuss Dao with true monarch nascent soul. As a friend, he can afford it. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian also acquiesced to true monarch Yuanqin's peer-to-peer argument. Because Chen Daoxian knew that his real strength was much stronger than that of suppressing Xue Tu Zhenren casually half a month ago. An opponent of the level of the real blood slaughter, he simply did not let him show all his strength. Although Chen Daoxian didn't know how strong Xinjue Zhenren was at his peak, he believed that he had taken out all his cards, and within the Jindan period, he should not be able to meet any opponents. Chen Daoxian can't say whether he can rival Yuanying Xinjuan. After all, the strength gap between Yuanying Xinjuan is huge. But Chen Daoxian can still afford the title of invincible real man, if he has all his cards. Friend Yuanchen. Friend Chen. The two of them formally performed a ceremony as a fellow Taoist, and then they all laughed, and the atmosphere was harmonious. Just when the two were talking happily, Chen Furong flew over, and immediately knelt down towards Chen Daoxian, bowing his head, young patriarch. Seeing Chen Furong, the smile on Chen Daoxian's face gradually faded away. He looked at Xinjuan Yuanchen and asked, "My Chen family, this younger generation, didn't cause trouble for Zhenjin's immortal city, right?" Hearing this, Xinjuan Yuanchen smiled and waved his hand. "Dao Yu Chen is serious. This little friend wants to cooperate with a real person under my command, but he has been executed when he encounters a villain." Xinjuan Yuanchen put it lightly. Chen Daoxian nodded, and immediately looked at Chen Furong. Immediately, his consciousness unfolded, and he found the rest of the Chen family cultivators in an instant, and said in everyone's ears, "Don't come back." Hearing this scolding, everyone was so frightened that they all flew over in the direction of the Molong. Looking at the Chen family headed by Chen Furong, Chen Daoxian said coldly, "Go back to the Molong first and kneel." "Yes, young patriarch." Like the eggplant who was beaten by frost, this time they violated the family's order and privately sought cooperation with Yuanchen Xiancheng, which undoubtedly made Chen Daoxian very angry. He has been in charge of the family for so many years, and this is the first time he has encountered someone who dared to disobey his orders. Although this order was not issued by Chen Daoxian, it was he who asked Chen Dalian to use the family seal and issued it in the name of the family. However, Chen Furong and the others were so daring and dared to do such arrogant things. Openly defying the clan order, Chen Furong, headed by any immortal clan in Wangxinghai, may not escape death. Chen Furong also knew how serious the consequences of his actions were, but he had no regrets in order to view the 7th industrial zone of Xiancheng in Hai. Watching Chen Furong and others leave, Xinjuan Yuanchen said with a smile, "Fellow Daoist Chen, I have prepared a banquet in the mansion, please." "Please." The two greeted each other and flew towards the most luxurious immortal mansion in Yuanchen Xiancheng together. Here, it is the residence of Yuanchen Xinjuan in Xiancheng. As true monarch Yuanying, the top cultivator in Wanxinghai, the immortal mansion owned by true monarch Yuanchen is naturally as numerous as a feather. But the immortal mansion where he received Chen Daoxian was unusual. Don't look at its appearance like an ordinary immortal mansion. In fact, this immortal mansion is a 5th-order middle-grade magic weapon, and it is also a magic weapon to suppress the defense of Yuanchen Immortal City. Step into the hall of the immortal mansion and sit down. Chen Daoxian retracted his scrutiny eyes, and said with certainty, "This magic weapon of fellow Daoist Yuanchen is really eye-opening." Hearing this, true monarch Yuanchen's eyes lit up, and he said with a smile, "I heard Daoist Huyan praise your talent for refining, but I didn't believe it at the time. It seems that Daoist Huyan was right." "Oh? Fellow Daoist knows Senior Huyan?" Xinjuan Yuanchen nodded. "More than knowing each other, he and I are very close friends." Although Chen Daoxian had only met the master of the Qianyuan sword sect refining hall once, he could see that Huyanqi was a very pure refiner. Although Huyanqi is an old-fashioned person, he is very fond of talents and has a very tolerant attitude towards monks who have the talent for refining. At the beginning, Yi Wudao slandered him in the Yunshao Palace of Qianyuan Jianzong because of his identity and background, and it was the head of the Huyan Palace who came out for him. Speaking of which, Chen Daoxian has inherited a lot of favor from the other party. At this moment, Chen Daoxian heard that Jinjuan Yuanchen and Huyanqi had a very good personal relationship, Aiwu and Wuxia, and immediately had a good impression of him by 3 points. As far as I know, Hall Master Huyan focuses on the way of refining weapons. Could it be that you are also Daoist Yuanchen? That's right, Jinjuan Yuanchen smiled and nodded, I'm a 5th-order mid-grade craftsman. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian widened his eyes and was shocked. What is the concept of a 5th-order mid-grade alchemist? Chen Daoxian himself is also an artifact refiner, but because of his lack of resources, he gradually gave up the art of artifact refining. Therefore, Chen Daoxian's weapon refining level is only the 3rd-rank middle grade. As Huyanqi said at the beginning, the way of refining tools is broad and profound. Even if Chen Daoxian has the help of the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, it is still difficult to progress without hard work. And this true monarch Yuanchen in front of him is actually a 5th-order mid-rank item refiner, which Chen Daoxian never expected. At the beginning, Chen Daoxian was still puzzled. Although a loose cultivator in the Yuanchen Jinjuan district, although his cultivation level was as high as the nascent soul stage, where did he get so many spiritual stones to build such a huge fairy city? Now, he understands. A 5th-order mid-grade craftsman, it's not too easy to make money. If Chen Daoxian remembered correctly, in the entire Wangxinghai, it seems that there are only 2 5th-order refiners, Huyanqi and Yuanchen Jinjuan. In the entire Wangxinghai, there are quite a few 4th-order artifact refiners who can refine magic tools for Jin Danjinren, but there are only 2 5th-order artifact refiners. Suddenly, Chen Daoxian seemed to think of something, and asked, since fellow Daoist is a 5th-order weapon refiner, why does the Jiang family have such a big revenge with fellow Daoist? Offending a 5th-order item refiner is completely different from offending a nascent soul true monarch. Compared with a simple cultivator, the rich and handsome profession such as alchemist not only has a much higher income, but also has a much wider network. For example, true monarch Yuanchen is not only good friends with Huyanqi, but can also talk to top true monarchs like Xinhai Palace Hall Master. The other nascent soul cultivators, such as the top-notch true monarchs of Xinhai Palace, really do not necessarily look down on each other. Don't think that with the same cultivation base, the two can talk on an equal footing. Just like the original fairy Qi Yao and Yang Linyuan were both cultivators of the Zifu, can they talk to each other on an equal footing? Not to mention the gap between the identities and backgrounds of the two sides, the gap in strength alone is despairingly large. Although the gap between the primordial infant cultivators is not as exaggerated as that of the Zifu cultivators, after all the cultivation base can reach the nascent soul stage, and the lower realm is the basic threshold. Unlike the Zifu period, there are those who have not even reached the first level of the Great Dao realm, and those who have entered the 3rd or even the 4th level. The strength gap between the monks in the Zifu period can be said to be the biggest gap between them among different cultivation bases. Even so, the gap between the top true monarch and the ordinary nascent soul cultivator is astonishing. It can even be said that the top true monarch encounters ordinary Yuaning cultivator and can kill each other in seconds. With such a large gap in strength, how can the two sides have equal dialogue? The so-called equal status is based on equal strength. Even if the strength of the first room is not good, at least the other party has something that the other party can see. Otherwise, why would the other party admit you and be willing to sit down and talk with you? True monarch Yuanchen can talk to top true monarchs because of his top level of refining. Chen Daoxian was treated with courtesy by Daojun Yuanchen, and it was also Jinjuan Yuanchen who saw the potential in him. In addition, Chen Daoxian seems to have filth with the Jiang family, and the relationship between the two sides does not seem to be harmonious. As the saying goes, the enemy of the enemy is a friend, and Chen Daoxian, the amazingly talented Jindan real person, is obviously a natural ally of his Yuanchen Jinjuan. The Jiang family in Taizhou, as an overlord-level family that dominates a state, Yuanchen Xianqing can compete with it, not only by relying on the power of Yuanchen Xianqing. There is also a large number of contacts that true monarch Yuanchen has made. It is precisely because of these contacts that the Jiang family has no way to take Yuanchen Xianqing for so many years. Inside the hall. When Jinjuan Yuanchen heard this question, He put down the wine glass in his hand, and said with a smile, "Because I was not a fifth-order smith at that time, and for more than 200 years, it is not that the Jiang family did not find someone to make peace with me, but I never agreed." Having said that, Jinjuan Yuanchen took a sip of wine. "Do you know why?" Chen Daoxian shook his head. "Because I can't stand it." Jinjuan Yuanchen put the wine glass on the wine table. "I have practiced until today, and I have gone through so many difficulties and obstacles. Is it just to survive?" Speaking of this, Jinjuan Yuanchen got a little excited. "At that time, when their Jiang family was powerful, they forced me out of Taizhou. At that time, I was like a lost dog, and I was in constant panic in the pursuit and killing of the Jiang family, Yuanying Jinjuan. After that, Yuanchen Xianqing was established, and it was suppressed by the Jiang family. If it wasn't for my accumulation of contacts in the early years, this city would have been destroyed long ago. You say, can I let go of such a big hatred?" Chen Daoxian drank a glass of wine and said, "How can we forget the hatred we share with the sky?" "You're right." Jinjuan Yuanchen took a deep breath. "The hatred between me and the Jiang family is inexorable." Half an hour. Jinjuan Yuanchen let out a breath of alcohol and said with a smile, "Speaking of the matter of reconciliation, I really have someone here, ask me to reconcile with you." Hearing this, Chen Daoxian immediately smiled and said, "Dao Yu Yuanchen said it was the ancestor of the Ji family, Ji Changsheng?" "Ha, I can't hide from Chen Daoxian, it is the ancestor Ji." As he said that, he looked at Chen Daoxian with a smile in his eyes. "The Ji family is willing to pay a large ransom in exchange for Ji Suhui." Hearing this, Chen Daoxian was slightly curious. "A lot of ransom?" Jinjuan Yuanchen stretched out 3 fingers, 3 billion spirit stones. "Big money." Chen Daoxian nodded. 30 billion spirit stones, even for the Ji family, is a huge sum of money. It can be seen that in order to exchange for Ji Suhui, the Ji family also gave a lot of blood. But then, Chen Daoxian shook his head again. "Unfortunately, Ji Suhui has already been killed by me. On the way here, I used the space law to completely wipe out his physical body and golden core." Hearing that Ji Suhui had been smashed to ashes by Chen Daoxian, Jinjuan Yuanchen was stunned for a moment, and then laughed. "Aren't you afraid that Ji Laozu will trouble you? You know, Ji Laozu's strength is not weak among Yuanying cultivators." Fellow Daoist Yuanchen was alone back then, facing the pursuit of 3 true monarchs who were stronger than you, not only not afraid, but also set up a fairy city at the door of the opponent's house. Why should a Chen Daoxian be afraid of a Ji Changsheng? Hear these powerful words. Yuanchen Jinjuan immediately drank a glass of wine, and then smashed the glass. "Happy?" Chen Daoxian also smiled and raised his head to drink a glass of wine. Jinjuan Yuanchen shook his head. "Unfortunately, I can't be a peacemaker." "Since Jinjuan can't be a peacemaker, why don't you and I talk about new cooperation?" "Oh?" Hearing the cooperation in Chen Daoxian's mouth, Jinjuan Yuanchen immediately became interested. In his mind, the thing he wants to cooperate with Chen Daoxian the most is that after Chen Daoxian breaks through the Yuanying period, the two sides will form an alliance to fight against the Jiang family in Taizhou. From the point of view of true monarch Yuanchen, with Chen Daoxian's talent, once he breaks through to the nascent soul stage, it is hard to say whether he can become a top true monarch in the future, but his strength is definitely much stronger than that of ordinary nascent soul monks. Such a top genius who has a grudge with the Jiang family, with the character of Yuanchen Jinjuan, must have invested early. Seeing Jinjuan Yuanchen's interested eyes, Chen Daoxian slowly talked about the cooperation between the two parties. "You mean, sell your Chen family's magical medicine to my Yuanchen Xianqing?" Hearing that it was this cooperation, to be honest, Jinjuan Yuanchen felt a little disappointed. The cooperation between the two parties he thought was much deeper than this. In his opinion, even though the Chen family is a new Jindan family in Sangzhou, it has a shallow background. But with the transaction amount of the magic weapon elixir given by Chen Daoxian, Yuanchen Jinjuan was stunned. Chapter 309. Boom! A spirit boat dashed through the air and quickly headed towards Zhangzhou. Malone, in the main cabin. Chen Daoxian was sitting on the seat, and beside him, a woman with a beautiful face was standing behind him, rubbing his eyebrows gently for him. Chen Daoxian closed his eyes, and suddenly, he opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the hatch. Next moment, the hatch opened, and a group of people walked in. The leader was Chen Daoyan, and behind her, followed by a group of Chen Jiafi's younger generation. Chen Furong followed behind Chen Daoyan. The expression on his face was the same as the eggplant that was beaten by Shuang. Violating the clan order, he privately sought cooperation with Yuanchen Xiancheng, and was caught on the spot by the young clan chief. According to clan rules, the first offender, Chen Furong, should be punished for his crimes, and the accomplices should also be imprisoned in the family's Thunder prison for 10 years to set an example. Thump. Thump. As soon as Chen Furong and others walked into the main cabin, they knelt on the ground. Xin Xiu Chen Furong, meet the young patriarch. Chen Daoxuan's expression was calm when he looked at the people of the Fuzi generation who were kneeling on the ground. But those who knew him knew that the calmer the expression on Chen Daoxuan's face, the more terrifying the hidden anger in his heart. The last time Chen Daoxian was so angry was when he set a trap to kill a qi refining family. Although the opponent they met that time was very weak, the Chen family was also extremely weak. At that time, the Chen family was only supported by Chen Daoxian and Chen Xianhe, and with a little splash, this improved family could be wiped out. However, Chen Daoxian did not show the slightest anger when he was coveted by the enemy, but directly killed the elites of the enemy clan by means of thunder. This ruthlessness is completely different from Chen Daoxuan's reputation for being generous towards his fellows, which was widely rumored in Cangzhou. Chen Furong, do you know the crime? Chen Furong turned pale, bowed his head and said, Furong is convicted. Ah, Chen Daoxian chuckled, looking at your appearance, you don't seem to be convinced. Young patriarch, Fu Rong knows that he has violated the rules of the clan and should be punished for his crimes, but my trip is all for the sake of the family, and I also asked the young patriarch to learn from it. For the family? Chen Daoxian lightly clasped the armrest of the chair, you dare to say that you have no selfishness at all? The 7th industrial zone you are in charge of is about to face the situation of shutdown. As the head of the 7th industrial zone, you have the lowest achievement among all the heads of industrial zones in the clan. Now, how dare you say that you are for your family? Hearing this, a drop of cold sweat ran down Chen Furong's temples. Fu Rong, guilty. He buried his head deeply on the ground, not daring to argue any further. When Chen Daoxian saw that he was no longer speaking, he waved his hand lightly and used the space cage to suppress him. As a senior member of the clan, Chen Furong's crimes were also very representative. Chen Daoxian planned to set a model in front of the clan. He wants to tell all the Chen clan members that the family order is above everything else, and whether the Chen clan people understand or not understand the family order, they must unswervingly implement it. Chen Daoyan watched Chen Furong being suppressed by the young patriarch, and said nothing during the whole process. As the acting patriarch, Chen Daoyan knew that a person like Chen Furong seemed to be thinking for the family, but in fact it was for his own future. For his own future, Chen Furong could even abandon the family's orders. This kind of person, Chen Daoyan encountered a lot when he was in charge of the family. After all, Chen Daoyan is not Chen Daoxian, she does not have the strength of Chen Daoxian to crown the whole family, and she does not have the unparalleled prestige of Chen Daoxian. Although she has the support of Chen Daoxian behind her, but Chen Daoxian has not been in the clan for many years and ignores clan affairs, so the support she can give her is very limited. More Chen Daoyan relies on her own wrist to tame this group of arrogant soldiers in the clan. Among them, the difficulty is not enough for outsiders. A clan like Chen Furong who ordered her to obey the Yin and the Yin, Chen Daoyan did not know how many she had encountered during the years in charge of the family. But these people are either extremely talented or not weaker than her, and Chen Daoyan really has nothing to do with them. Chen Daoyan knew that what the young patriarch did today, in addition to letting the clan know that the clan order could not be violated, was still standing up for her, the acting patriarch. So, Chen Furong is dead. As for you, Qin Daoxuan's gaze turned to the other monks of the Blessing generation. Go to the Thunder Prison to receive the criminal law for 10 years. Thank you, young patriarch. The nervous expressions of everyone were relieved immediately. The cultivators of the Blessed generation present were all 500-year-old cultivators of the Qin clan, and none of them wanted to die. Qin Daoxuan's decision to speak out this punishment naturally made everyone breathe a sigh of relief. Okay, let's stop this, let's go out. Yes, young patriarch. Watching everyone leave, Qin Daoxian looked at Qin Dalian and said with a smile, I'm not in the clan these years, it's not easy for these little guys to manage. Hearing this, Qin Dalian suddenly had 1,000 words in her heart that she wanted to talk about, but when she saw Luo Li standing behind Qin Daoxian, the words finally turned into, it's okay. Qin Daoxian nodded, that's how it is to manage a family. As the patriarch, you must not only have extraordinary strength, but also have enough skills. Some people, on the surface, dare not disobey your orders, but they are able to work without any effort. If one person is like this, they are not afraid. If everyone is like this, the family is in danger. Dalian is taught. Qin Dalian gave a blessing. However, as long as I am here, the people in the family will not dare to make any changes, so you can do it with confidence and boldness. Hearing this, Qin Dalian was slightly moved. By the way, can we Guanhai Xianqing fulfill the cooperation conditions signed with Yuanqin Xianqing? Hearing this, Qin Dalian suddenly came to his senses. In the 5 years since Qin Daoxian retreated to break through the Golden Core stage, Qin Daolian's greatest achievement was to initially build Guanhai Xianqing into an industrial city. The establishment of the 9 industrial zones has made Guanhai Xianqing burst into unparalleled productivity. Qin Dalian is confident, and the Guanhai Xianqing with full horsepower can fully supply the markets of medicine pills, magic weapons, and amulets in Sangzhou and Yuanqin Xianqing. Not only that, the special environment of Yuanqin Xianqing can also provide sufficient industrial raw materials for Guanhai Xianqing. The raw material market and sales market are all resolved. Qin Dalian believes that the development speed of Guanhai Xianqing will surely shock the world. Seeing the confident look on Qin Daliankio's face, Qin Daoxian smiled and reminded, the annual transaction scale of more than 300 billion spirit stones is not a joke. Young patriarch, don't worry. Qin Daolian's face is full of confidence, you are not in the clan these years, and you have no idea about the changes in Guanhai Xianqing. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian nodded, okay, until the end of this trip, I must take a good look at your achievements over the years. Qin Dalian nodded with a smile. The next days, the Molong continued to fly. Although the Molong was extremely fast, it would still take several days to return to Shuanghu Island from Yuanqin Xianqing. Taking advantage of this time, Qin Daoxian sorted out the changes that had broken through the Golden Core stage. This time, Qin Daoxian encountered the family's request for help before he had time to consolidate his cultivation. This time, the cooperation with Yuanqin Xianqing has been established, and the biggest problem of the family has been solved. Qin Daoxian finally has time to carefully understand the changes after forming the pill. But before that, Qin Daoxian first looked at a new exercise in consciousness C. When he was selecting treasures in the inheritance trial space, the Sea of Divine Light he practiced faintly felt something with the star's kendo map. This is also the reason why he chose the star's kendo map. Sure enough, after his cultivation base broke through to the Golden Core stage, a brand new cultivation technique appeared in his Sea of Consciousness. And this practice method is the follow-up method of the Sea of Divine Light. This law is called separation of the sea. And the original name of Dingpa Xinguang is not this, its original name is called Shenhai Pian. The Divine Sea, the Dividing the Sea. Qin Daoxian looked at the names of these two exercises, and his doubts deepened. Because from the names of these two methods, he could see that there must be a follow-up to this method. Perhaps this follow-up method can only be obtained after my cultivation is higher, or when I pass the inheritance trial completely. Qin Daoxian secretly said. Chapter 310. Qin Daoxian carefully studied this second exercise. After careful inspection, Qin Daoxian found that this second exercise was completely based on the first Divine Sea. If the main content of the Divine Sea chapter is to open up the Sea of Divine Light, the second part of the exercises is about how to use the Sea of Divine Light that has been opened up. Exciting a beam of light from the vast Sea of Divine Light to fix one's soul is just the most superficial use of the Divine Sea chapter. Actually, this official disciple of the unknown forces in the upper realm, no one would be like Qin Daoxian, such a superficial use of the Sea of Divine Light that has been opened up by hard work. Really? Qin Daoxian kept flipping through the contents of the Dividing the Sea, and the joy on his face became stronger and stronger. I just said that the Sea of Divine Light created with so much energy will not only have the two functions of expanding one's divine consciousness and inspiring a soul-stabilizing divine light. Divine Sea chapter only talks about how to open up the Sea of Divine Light, but it does not have a single word on how to use the Sea of Divine Light. It turns out that it is not that there is no method of application, but that it is recorded in the second article, Dividing the Sea. Qin Daoxian's eyes lit up, and the excitement in his eyes could not be restrained. As the second exercise method that the Golden Scriptures voluntarily transmitted to him, Qin Daoxian suspected for a long time that the level of this martial art was too low compared to the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. It turned out that it wasn't that the soul-defining light was of low grade, but that it was incomplete. Even now, Qin Daoxian obtained the second exercise method, but this method is still not complete. Qin Daoxian knew in his heart that if he wanted to obtain a complete method, he would have to become an official disciple of this unknown force in the upper realm. He continued to study the Dividing the Sea. 3 days later. In the main cabin, Qin Daoxian withdrew from the Epiphany state. After 3 consecutive days of Epiphany, he finally finished the second exercise, Fenhai chapter. To put it simply, this second exercise mainly talks about dividing the Sea of Divine Light that fills the entire Sea of Consciousness into small seas of Divine Light. The reason why it is divided, its purpose is to distract. When Qin Daoxian was in the early stage of qi refining, he could only control a flying sword. Later, when the cultivation base reaches the mid-qi refining stage, he can control 2 flying swords. It seems that this is the method of distraction, but it is not. At the beginning, Qin Daoxian was able to control 2 flying swords at the same time instead of controlling 1 flying sword. First, it was the change brought about by the improvement of his cultivation base and the growth of infuriating energy. Second, it is Qin Daoxian's increased spiritual awareness, which allows him to use 2 things with ease. But doing 2 things with one mind is actually not a big deal. Ordinary people can often do 2 things with one mind after hard training. The Dividing the Sea exercises that he comprehended is naturally not a simple one-minded two-purpose or multi-purpose. To be precise, the ultimate goal of this exercise is to allow monks to divide their consciousness into independent and unified existences. In terms of personality, these independent consciousness belong to Qin Daoxian. But when running the law, they cannot interfere with each other, and each runs a different law. That's right. Whether it's Shanhai or Dividing the Sea, in the end, they all serve the purpose of exerting the power of the law. At this moment, Qin Daoxian couldn't help but think of the 3-headed and 6-armed magical powers that the Taoist in white taught him in the inheritance trial space. Qin Daoxian pondered for a while, and immediately displayed 3 heads and 6 arms in the main cabin. As the 3 heads grew, Qin Daoxian felt that his consciousness was instantly divided into 3. Although each consciousness clearly knew what the other was thinking, they were independent of each other. But they belong to the whole of Qin Daoxian. It sounds like this statement is somewhat similar to the schizophrenia in the previous life, but it is actually completely different. This is a state of practice that practitioners dream of. According to legend, there are some powerful monks in the upper realm who can divide their minds into thousands and put them into the endless immortal realm to reincarnate and experience all kinds of hardships in the human world in order to temper their minds. This method of dividing the mind is similar to the Dividing the Sea. This method is different from avatars. Qin Daoxian's avatars come from cutting the soul and shaping the flesh. The method of cutting the soul, whether it is for a powerful monk or a low-level monk, should not be tried lightly. Because once the clone falls, it seems that it has no effect on the deity, but in fact, the soul of the deity will permanently lack a trace of true spirit and authenticity. This missing trace of true spirit and true nature may not have the slightest impact on the deity's cultivation base and lifespan, but it will affect the deity's achievement of immortality in the future. The monks become immortals and require the soul to be transformed into pure yang. And if you want the soul to transform into the realm of pure yang, first of all, the true spirit and true nature in the soul must be complete. At that time, the seemingly insignificant avatar becomes extraordinarily important. Of course, for this cultivator, becoming an immortal is illusory, and the clone is naturally equivalent to an extra life for the deity, and few people take it to heart. This point, even Chen Daoxian is not clear. The sea of light is different. Although this sea exists in the sea of consciousness, it is neither divine consciousness nor mana, but an extremely special existence. It is divided into individual mind clones. No matter how much damage it is, it will not hurt the deity in the slightest. The big deal is to recultivation and complete the sea of light. Of course, to be able to turn the divided sea of divine light into a mind clone, Chen Daoxuan's current cultivation is still 108,000 miles away. However, there is no problem in letting the divided minds control different Dao laws. Since Chen Daoxuan's space law and Siyu sword intent were integrated into the star sword Dao map, and his two natal flying swords were also integrated into the map, Chen Daoxian found that he could only use one flying sword at a time. While using the flying snow sword, it is not impossible to forcibly use the Qingying sword, but it can only be an ordinary magic weapon. The law of sword intent integrated with it will completely dissipate under the rejection of another law of sword intent. The Dao law is extremely repulsive. Even different branches of the same law are extremely repulsive. It can be seen that it is incredible that the powerful monk with a giant axe seen by Chen Daoxian in the real fairy source world can make the law of 5 elements revolve around the law of space. And the practice of dividing the sea can completely eliminate this repulsion. Because after cultivating that dividing the sea, the minds are divided, just like different individuals. How can they be excluded when they cast their own laws? In fact, the 3 heads and 6 arms also have this effect, but the 3 heads and 6 arms can only achieve 3 points of the mind, and at most 3 different sword intent laws can be displayed at the same time. Compared with the infinite possibilities of dividing the sea, the gap is too great. Just when Chen Daoxian was in a good mood, he was about to continue to comprehend the practice of the Fenhai chapter. Boom! 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 A melodious bell told him completely back to reality. The bell rang a total of 9 times, and generally only in the most urgent situations, the bell would ring 9 times. Chen Daoxian was about to discover the Malong number with his divine sense. Then, he walked out of the main cabin. Chen Daoxian looked at Shuanghu Island, which he hadn't seen for 5 years and had undergone earth-shaking changes, and was filled with emotion for a while. Under the shroud of consciousness, Chen Daoxian discovered that the current Shuanghu Island, towns and cities rose from the ground. Around the town, surrounded by villages, the official roads extending in all directions bring together the entire Shuanghu Island. He even saw a large number of cloud-traversing beasts and vehicles on the broad official road. If I remember correctly, when he and Chen Xianhe went to the immortal city of Guang'an Mansion, he saw that the most common vehicle used by monks was this kind of cloud-traversing beast vehicle. But for the current Chen family, this kind of cloud-treading beast car is no longer a rare thing. Not to mention monks, this kind of gentle cloud-traversing beast officially replaced horses as early as 3 years ago and became a common public transportation for ordinary people. This is just a change in the lives of ordinary people. Compared with ordinary people, the Chen family cultivator has changed even more. The family's economic strength is strong, and its strength is getting stronger and stronger, so that many Chen family cultivators who go out are more arrogant and domineering than the original Zhou family. Due to Chen Daoxuan's strategy of keeping a low profile and keeping a low profile for the family, the outside world has never known much about the Chen family in Zhangzhou. The reason why everyone has heard of this family is more because of Chen Daoxuan's face. If there was no Chen Daoxian, and out of Cangzhou, how many people in Wanxinghai would know about this small family of Cangzhou Chen family? True monarch Yuanchen received the Chen family with the highest standards, which was not Chen Daoxuan's face. Although Chen Daoxian repeatedly wanted to weaken his reputation in Cangzhou, what he didn't expect was that Chen Daoxian is now not only famous in Cangzhou, but also a topical figure in the entire Wanxinghai. After all, Chen Daoxian has come all the way, and his record is so sturdy that outsiders can't even pay attention to it. On the deck of the Molong, Chen Daoxuan's light flashed, and he flew towards the discussion hall first. In front of the Chen family's discussion hall, one after another, the escaping lights stopped. All of them were the senior members of the Chen family. Among these monks, there is a raw face. This person has red hair and red beard. Seeing this person, Chen Daoxian was slightly stunned, and then smiled. Zhang Daoyu, I haven't seen you for many years, stay safe. This red-haired Taoist is none other than Zhang Yu, the person in charge of the Qianyun temple stationed in the immortal city of Guang'an Prefecture. When Zhang Yu saw Chen Daoxian, he first smiled, then remembered something, and cupped his hands. Zhang Yu pays respects to Chen Jinren. Saying that, he bowed and saluted Chen Daoxian. Zhang Daoyu's words are serious. Chen Daoxian stepped forward quickly, lifted Zhang Yu slightly, and said with a smile, "You and I are old friends." Heard. Zhang Yu smiled and said, "The outside world is rumored to have suppressed Ji Suhui, the real person of blood slaughter, after turning your hands, saying that your strength may be comparable to that of the real person Shinjue back then. Unexpectedly, Daoyu Chen, you are still the same as before, so humble and polite. Brother Zhang praises me again, and I can't be ashamed." Ha ha. The two joked a few times, and the daring of a little strange estrangement disappeared immediately. After all, the two participated in the war to quell the corpse tide in Cangzhou together, and their friendship was extraordinary. It is said that friendship formed on the battlefield is the most reliable, and this statement is true. The Chen family and the Zhou family fell in love with each other, but Chen Daoxian and Zhou Mubai cherished each other. In addition to admiring each other's natural talents, there was another important reason, that they had a life-and-death friendship. Therefore, even though the strength of the Chen family is far more than that of the Zhou family, Chen Daoxian did not show an aggressive attitude. Speaking, Chen Daoxian put away his smile and said sternly, "Brother Zhang is here, but Qianyuan Jianzong is going to recover Zenangwen." Hearing this, Zhang Yu nodded seriously, "Exactly." Hearing this, Chen Daoxian froze slightly in his heart. Really? In recent years, not only Chen Daoxian broke through to the Golden Core stage, but Fairy Qiyao, who was one step away from the Golden Core stage as early as in the true immortal origin realm, even broke through to the Golden Core stage before him. According to Fairy Qiyao, the day she broke through the Golden Pill was when she led the Cangzhou cultivators to recover Zenangwen. Although Chen Daoxian didn't know why the date of recovering Zenangwen was postponed for a few years, what should have come always came. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxuan's breathing couldn't help but quicken. Recovering Jinan Pass is the wish of every monk in Cangzhou. The Cangzhou cultivators have been unhappy these years, and a large part of the reason is that Zenangwen fell, resulting in the Cangzhou cultivators' resource supply being much worse than that of other prefectures. Chen Daoxian was so excited, but he didn't really want to recover Zenangwen. But after so long, he finally had the opportunity to go to Xianyunzhu to find out. According to legend, Xianyunzhu is extremely vast. This world is not like the previous life, there are several continents. In this world, there is one and only one fairy continent, that is Xianyun. The rest are either sea areas or islands. In fact, the place where the sect of Qianyuan Jianzong is located, in the previous life, is estimated to be larger than all the continents combined, but in this world, this kind of area can only be called an island. After all, for high-level monks, a place that can be circled with only a few incense sticks is not called an island. In this world, only a vast continent like Xianyun can be called a continent. Sect forces such as Xianyang sect, Qingwei Taoist sect, and Qianji temple, placed in the vicinity of Wanxinghai, are considered to be the leading forces. But looking at the entire Xianyun continent, it is nothing. In Xianyun continent, it is the minimum for the sects and families that can be called first-class great powers to have Yuanshan Daojun in charge. However, neither the Qianyuan Sword Sect nor the Xianqing Daoist League, there is no Yuanshan Daojun. Don't look at Qianyuan Jianzong's dominance in Wangxinghai, but looking at the entire Xian Yunsu, it can only be regarded as a second-rate force at most. The Xianqing Dao League two together, the strength is stronger than the Qianyuan Jianzong, but it is still second-rate. As for the nearby sects such as the Thousand Machines Hall, this is basically the same. Soon, the news of Qianyuan Jianzong's recovery of Zhenangwen was spread among the high-level monks in Cangzhou. Qianyuan Jianzong did not intend to keep it a secret. In these years of competing with the Xianqing Dao League, the two sides have already penetrated each other almost. A war of this level, such as the recovery of Zhenangwen, involves resources and cultivators, and the scale is huge. Could it be that Qianyuan Jianzong can hide it if he wants to hide it? Instead of timidly attacking, it is better to overwhelm the entire force of Cangzhou and take back Zhenangwen in an upright manner. At least in the eyes of the senior monks in Cangzhou, this is what Qianyuan Jianzong came up with. 3 days later. In the sky, the spirit boat covers the sky and the sun. One after another, the spirit boats, carrying the major immortals and the elite monks in the Cangzhou scattered cultivation, flew in the direction of Qianyuan Jianzong. Chapter 311. Qianyuan Sword Sect. In the sky, countless spirit boats gathered towards the island where Qianyuan Jianzong Zongmen was located. Now, Qianyuan Jianzong's guardian array has long been open to welcome the arrival of Cangzhou monks. On the Moron, Chen Daoxian stood on the deck of the spirit boat, and his consciousness swept across the spirit boat slightly, checking the Cangzhou cultivator who came this time. After a brief inspection, he found that most of the monks present were leaders of the major immortal races. Chen family, Zhou family, Wu family, Zhang family. In addition to the major immortals, the scattered cultivators also gathered together under the gathering of the scattered cultivators in the Zifu. It has to be said that the last time the true immortal origin realm and his party made Cangzhou at a lot of Zifu loose cultivators. After these loose cultivators broke through the Zifu period, they were not willing to be helpless cultivators anymore, but wanted to fight for a future in the battlefield of Izumo, not to mention the establishment of top Cangzhou like the Chen family and the Zhou family. Big family. Even if you build a lesser family and become an ancestor of a family, you will not waste your life. With this kind of thinking in mind, this time Cangzhou Zifu Sanqiu was very active in recovering Zhenangwen. Because once Zhenangwen is successfully recaptured, Qianyuan Jianzong will not be stingy with rewards. At that time, everyone's idea of establishing an immortal family and calling them ancestors will be realized. Chen Daoxuan's consciousness quickly skipped the spirit boats. With his stronger consciousness than ordinary Jindan cultivators, no one found his secret investigation. A long time. Chen Daoxuan's consciousness stopped on a spirit boat. On a spirit void battleship of the Zhou family. Zhou Mubai was closing his eyes in the cabin to meditate. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. Who? Zhou Mubai's eyes were like electricity, and the flying sword flew out of the storage bag in an instant. He looked around vigilantly, and said solemnly, "I don't know which senior is here, please come and see. This place is already where the Qianyuan Sword Sect is located." Zhou Mubai does not believe that any cultivator dares to act recklessly and cause trouble here. Brother Zhou. In the sea of consciousness, a familiar voice sounded. Hearing this voice, Zhou Mubai immediately put down his guard and silently put the flying sword back into the storage bag. After a long while, he sighed and cupped his hands, "Brother Chen." The voice just fell. In front of Zhou Mubai, a figure suddenly appeared. It is Chen Daoxian. Seeing Chen Daoxian suddenly appearing in front of him, Zhou Mubai's expression changed slightly. He knew very well what this scene meant. Teleport. After the space sword intent reaches the lower realm, the first thing to master is the space cage. After mastering the space cage, if the cultivator's space law can continue to improve, he can master space teleportation. This is the second variation of the law of space. After reaching the law realm, there are three kinds of changes in space law: space cage, space teleportation, and space strangulation. These three abilities are just three variations of the laws of space, and it doesn't matter whether they are high or low. But generally speaking, if a cultivator can perform space teleportation, it means that his Dao realm has reached the middle part of the law realm. But how long has it been? Zhou Mubai was in a trance. Normally, isn't the higher the Dao realm, the slower the cultivator's progress? Why is the speed of Chen Daoxuan's Daoist progress not only not slowing down, but accelerating? Zhou Mubai was very puzzled. The main cabin of the Spirit Void battleship where he is located is guarded by a fourth-order formation. Even so, Chen Daoxian easily bypassed the defensive formation and teleported to him. It can be seen how big the difference in strength between the two of them is now. Thinking that the Zhou family had been delusional about competing with the Chen family for the position of the number one family in Sangzhou, now that they think about it, it is ridiculous. Chen Daoxian alone can easily destroy the entire Zhou family in Guang'an Mansion. Seeing the expression on Zhou Mubai's face changed from shock to silence. Chen Daoxian sat down on the chair in front of the other party at will, and said with a smile, "Brother Zhou, why are you looking at me like this? Haven't seen me for a few years, have you forgotten what I look like?" Hearing Chen Daoxuan's relaxed tone, Zhou Mubai relaxed in his heart and said with a smile, "Yeah, I haven't seen you for 5 years, and seeing Brother Chen again, I really don't dare to recognize him." He paused. "Although you are relieved that you killed Ji Suhui, it is still a little troublesome after all." Chen Daoxian shook his head. "No problem, this time I should levy the south gate of Fujian, and the Ji family will not dare to do anything to my Chen family." Zhou Mubai understood the meaning of Chen Daoxuan's words. The Chen family was summoned by Chenyuan Jianzong to recover Zhenengguan. At this juncture, the Ji family, whether it is to destroy the Chen family directly, or use other means to destroy the Chen family secretly, they are all hitting the face of Chenyuan Jianzong. If the Ji family really dared to do such a thing, they would definitely be wiped out by the Chenyuan sword sect, just like the Qi family in Yuzhou back then. It is the will of Chenyuan Jianzong to recover Zhenengguan. Any behavior that drags its feet at this juncture will be violently suppressed by Chenyuan Jianzong. Therefore, Chen Daoxian believed that Ji Laozu would not joke about the survival of the entire family for the sake of a mere Ji Suhui. Zhou Mubai nodded. During the recovery of Zhenengguan, the Ji family did not dare to trouble the Chen family, but how many years will it take to recover Zhenengguan, or 10 years? Regardless of the outcome, this war will always be over. By then, where will your Chen family go? Brother Zhou, 5 years ago, I was just a cultivator of the Purple House. How do you know that in a few years or even more than 10 years later, it was the Ji family who troubled my Chen family, not the other way around? This. Zhou Mubai looked at Chen Daoxuan's confident face and was speechless. Indeed. What Zhou Mubai considered was that the Chen family couldn't resist the Ji family, but the Chen family had Chen Daoxian, a monstrous-level patriarch, and it was hard to say who was afraid of whom at that time. Thinking of this, Zhou Mubai smiled bitterly. "Brother Chen, you are thinking too much." Chen Daoxian shook his head. "I know, Brother Zhou is also kind." For a while, the two were silent for a while. A long time. Zhou Mubai sighed again. "Brother Chen, I know the purpose of your coming to me. I can only promise you, if your Chen family blocks the Ji family's offensive after this battle, in the future, my Zhou family will only follow the Chen family's horse." "Okay." Brother Zhou speaks quickly, "Then it's a decision." "It's a word." Zhou Mubai nodded. "Say it." Chen Daoxuan's figure instantly disappeared in front of him, leaving only little ripples in the space. Looking at the position where Chen Daoxian disappeared, Zhou Mubai was lost for a while. Zhou Mubai knew that Chen Daoxian showed his hand in front of him just to demonstrate. But in general, the means of this demonstration are moderate enough. No shouting and killing, no open and dark guns. Just by teleporting through space, appearing and disappearing in front of him, the Zhou family had to surrender to the Qin family and recognize the status of the other party's first family in Cangzhou. Once the Zhou family surrenders, in Cangzhou, the Qin family is the absolute hegemon, and no family force can compete with the Qin family, just like the Jiang family in Taizhou and the Ji family in Jingzhou. Return to the main cabin of the Molong. Qin Daoxian had a smile on his face. On the side, Luo Li, who was closing his eyes and meditating, opened his eyes and looked at him curiously. What's wrong? Fine. Qin Daoxian smiled and shook his head. Although he didn't know what happened, but seeing the smile on Qin Daoxian's face, Luo Li knew that something good must have happened, so a smile appeared on his pretty face. Seeing the smile on Luo Li's beautiful face, Qin Daoxian faintly felt that the main cabin became brighter. How is your water and sword intent practice? Hearing Ai Lang asking about her cultivation progress, Luo Liqiu's face was instantly filled with joy. She waved her snow-white little fists and said happily, "Husband, the effect of your preaching is really good. I feel that the effect of my enlightenment is many times better than in the past. This feeling. It's like using enlightenment tea every 3 to 5. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian nodded with a smile. This practice method I practice can help myself and others store understanding, and it is indeed very similar to the effect of enlightenment tea. No wonder husband's cultivation speed is so fast. Luo Li was even happier when she saw that Qin Daoxian shared this kind of secret with him. It's just that Luo Li didn't know that storing comprehension was just the most basic ability in the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. Qin Daoxian has practiced the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic so far, and he has long been more than the ability to store comprehension. Otherwise, his Dao realm would not be able to improve so fast. Enlightenment, preaching, enlightenment. Coupled with the more mysterious golden scriptures, as well as the Stardust Kendo map and unknown exercises he just obtained from the Wanxinghai Heritage Trial Space. The addition of these things, coupled with the opportunity of the true immortal origin realm, made him who he is now. If one of the above-mentioned opportunities is lacking, Qin Daoxian's strength will not be as terrifying as it is now. In less than 50 years, his strength is comparable to that of a nascent soul cultivator, not to mention unheard of in Wanxinghai. I am afraid that in the entire history of Xianyan continent, there has never been such a monster. Between the two talking, the Molong number has passed through the space barriers set up by Qianyuan Jianzong outside the sect and entered the interior of Qianyuan Jianzong. Feeling the suddenly strong spiritual energy, Qin Daoxian paused, then smiled and said, "Miss, we are here." What? When Luo Li heard that the two had arrived at the Qianyuan sword sect, her heart suddenly tightened. After all, for the many races of Wanxinghai, Jinhai Hall's prestige is too great. And as the sect behind Jinhai Palace, how terrifying the Qianyuan sword sect should be. However, for Qin Daoxian, although Qianyuan Jianzong is still a behemoth, it is no longer so unattainable. Whether it is his own strength that is comparable to that of an ordinary nascent soul cultivator, or whether he has seen a wider world in the Wanxinghai inheritance trial, it made his vision no longer limited to a small Qianyuan sword sect and Wanxinghai. Qin Daoxian knew in his heart that if he could obtain the inheritance of Wanxinghai and become an official disciple of the unknown forces in the upper realm, it would be a real leap to the sky. At that time, sect forces like Qianyuan Jianzong, who can only be considered second-rate in Xian Yunsu, may not be in his eyes at all. Not to mention the immortal cultivating families like the Jiang family and the Ji family, which seem to be far stronger than the Qin family. When they arrived in Cangzhou, all the spirit boats flew into the sect. The space barriers around the Qianyuan sword sect slowly merged until they completely disappeared. Qin Daoxian led the Qin family cultivators to get off the Molong number. Just now in Lingzhou, Qin Daoxian saw Fairy Qiyao, who was wearing a high-level spirit armor and had a valiant appearance. The recovery of Zenangwen this time was led by Fairy Qiyao. As for why Fairy Qiyao is leading, this involves the change of power within Qianyuan Jianzong. Qin Daoxian is neither interested nor qualified to know. Fairy Qiyao stood in the air, looked at the Cangzhou cultivators on the field, and said, "Everyone, I am. Introduce yourself and boost morale." The group of Zhangzhou monks who came here lived in a temporary military camp under the arrangement of the Qianyuan sword sect's outer disciples. All the monks who came from Zhangzhou this time add up to nearly 1 million. Coupled with the strength of Qianyuan Jianzong's own dispatch, there are a total of 1.5 million monks. It is impossible for so many people to rush to Zhenengwan Xianqing without reorganization. That's not called recovering Zhenengwan, it's called courting death. Chen Daoxian once commanded the monk army, and he knew that there must be some work to do to reorganize the army. Unlike mortal armies, monk armies are reorganized much faster. But no matter how fast the reorganization is, it will take at least a few months. After so many years of waiting, neither Zhangzhou Cultivator nor Qianyuan Jianzong cared about the mere months. The reorganization of Zhangzhou Cultivator and Qianyuan Jianzong Cultivator was led by the head coach, Fairy Qi Yao. In fact, with Chen Daoxuan's strength, it is more appropriate for him to lead this war. After all, the strength he showed was definitely stronger than Fairy Qi Yao, who had just broken through the golden core stage. It's just that Fairy Qi Yao led the recovery of Zhenengwan. In addition to recovering Zhenengwan itself, it also had the political purpose of gaining qualifications. Chen Daoxian and Fairy Qi Yao also have some friendship. Why bother to do this offending thing? It seems to be in return for Chen Daoxian. When Fairy Qi Yao was reorganizing the Zhangzhou monks, she specially allocated all the monks of the Chen family and the vassal families of the Chen family to Chen Daoxian to lead them. As one of the few Jindan cultivators in this cultivator army, Chen Daoxian naturally has the right to lead an army. And because of Chen Daoxuan's amazing strength, the number of troops he led was still large, with a total of 300,000 people, reaching 1/5 of the entire army. After handing over the army under his leadership to Chen Fuxing for reorganization, Chen Daoxian fell into idleness again. After all, Chen Daoxuan's experience in governing the army is really incomparable to that of Chen Fuxing, who has been in charge of the Chen family's military all the year round. Entrusting professional things to professional people is the family governance policy that Chen Daoxian has always pursued, and this time is no exception. Of course, he didn't need to worry about reorganizing the army, but Chen Daoxian wasn't really doing nothing. This time, when he came to Qianyuan Jianzong, Chen Daoxian also had another purpose, and that was to find the hall master of Zhenhai Palace, because he had one thing to help him. Qianyuan sword sect. Beside Chen Daoxian, followed by a disciple of the inner sect of Zi Mansion, the two were flying towards the inner mountain of Qianyuan Jianzong. Senior Chen, in front of you is the dojo of Hall Master Qin. Is that the fairy mountain? Chen Daoxian pointed to a looming immortal mountain in front of him and asked. Looking in the direction of Chen Daoxuan's finger, the inner disciple of Zi Mansion shook his head and said, "It's not that one, that is Tianshu Peak, the dojo of Hall Master Qin, next to Tianshu Peak." Tianshu Peak. Chen Daoxian always felt a little familiar when talking about this name. After thinking for a while, he finally remembered where he had heard the name, and turned to continue asking, "That day, Shufeng, but the dojo of Hall Master Huyen?" Chapter 312. Qianyuan Sword Sect. Inside a magnificent fairy palace. A ray of light flew towards this fairy palace, the light fell, and a young cultivator stood in front of the palace and stepped into the fairy palace. The Gate of Asgard. A black figure came out of the fairy palace. Master Sunday, Qin Zhan saw the middle-aged cultivator wearing a black Taoist robe walking towards him, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he greeted. The black-robed cultivator nodded to Qin Zhan, and said in a hoarse voice, "Palace Master Qin." Qin Zhan bowed slightly towards the other party and took the initiative to move out of the way. The black-robed cultivator smiled slightly, and drove away from the Asgard palace. "Come in." Watching the black-robed cultivator leave, Qin Zhan heard the voice of Chen Shui, the concubine of the Qianyuan sword sect. Hearing this, Qin Zhan walked into the fairy palace, where he saw a quiet fairy dressed in a plain white Taoist uniform sitting cross-legged in front of the incense burner. Qin Zhan walked to the futon in front of Fei Qinxue and sat down, picked up a spiritual fruit on the table and chewed it. Well, this blood evil fruit tastes good, just as I am condensing my body recently, give it to me. As he said that, Qin Zhan didn't even see him outside, and in front of Fei Chenxue, he put all the blood evil fruits in the plate into the storage ring. After loading the spoils, Qin Zhan showed a contented expression, and immediately remembered something, looked up at Fei Chenxue and said, I saw the palace master of the Shadow Palace just now, what is this old man doing here? Seeing Qin Zhan's incoherent appearance, concubine Chenxue couldn't help shaking her head slightly. Dianzhu's son is here for the sake of Tai Chenxue. Hearing the Tai Chenxue, Qin Zhan's face suddenly became serious, and he said solemnly, the Tai Chenxue of the Qingwei Taoist school? Fei Chenxue nodded. Hearing this, Qin Zhan's mood became heavier. As the dojo of Huyanqi, the master of Qianyuan Jianzong's refining hall, Tianshu Mountain is quite different from the dojos of other Yuanying monks. Just approaching Tianshu Mountain, Chen Daoxian could feel the surging heat emanating from this immortal mountain through this layer of space barriers, even across the defensive formation. Senior Chen, this is the dojo of Hall Master Huyan. The inner disciple of Zi Mansion who led the way for Chen Daoxian said with a strange expression, it's just that Hall Master Huyan has never seen outsiders, so. Chen Daoxian said with a smile, it's okay, I already know the main dojo of the Qin Palace, I will go to it myself later, you can go back. Then, Junior retire. The inner disciple of the Zi Mansion bowed, then turned into a light and quickly left. Chen Daoxian looked at the defensive formation in front of him, and took out a dark token from his storage bag. This token was given to him by Huyanqi, the master of the refining hall, the last time he came to Qianyuan Jianzong. Just as Chen Daoxian took out the black token, a fiery red aura shot out from the black token and flew towards Lingshu Mountain. Chen Daoxian knew that this must have triggered the ban on the token, so he waited with peace of mind. About half a stick of incense time. A burly man with naked arms opened the defense formation of Lingshu Mountain and walked out of the formation. Fellow Daoist Chen, Master ordered me to invite fellow Daoists in. Having said that, the strong man bowed to Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian didn't dare to neglect, he hurriedly returned the salute, and said respectfully, there is a fellow Daoist who has worked hard. The strong man nodded, please. Please. After all, Chen Daoxian followed behind the strong man and flew into the defensive formation. As a fourth-order formation mage, Chen Daoxian could not see the mystery of this formation at all. Obviously, the rank of the defensive formation in front of him far exceeds the fourth order. Seeing Chen Daoxian's gaze, the brawny man explained with a smile, among all the monks, when it comes to the mastery of battle formations, except for the formation masters, it is our weapon refiner. He paused and continued, the Tianshu Mountain defense formation seen by Daoist friends was arranged by Master and his old man, and the formation level is as high as 6th. Tier 6. Chen Daoxian looked at each other in horror. Exactly. The strong man nodded. During the conversation between the two, the speed of escaping light did not decrease at all. In a blink of an eye, he came to the back mountain of Lingshu Mountain. It is also the place where Hall Master Huyan secretly cultivated. Along the way, Chen Daoxian saw a high-level fire vein on Tianshu Mountain. Compared with the fire vein on Shuanghu Island, the grade of the fire vein on Tianshu Mountain is higher. How many? That's it, it's just a place for Hall Master Huyan and his disciples to practice and refine tools. The complete refining hall occupies an area that is not known to be much wider than this Tianshu Mountain. Of course, other people in the item refining hall naturally could not get the personal instruction of the Hall Master Huyanqi. Even the usual teaching of the artifact refining knowledge to other artifact refining hall disciples is done by his most incompetent disciples. When Huyanqi was in charge of the Qianyuan Sword Sect refining hall, the thing that bothered him the most was that he failed to find a qualified heir for the refining hall. You must know that the 7 hall masters of the Qianyuan Sword Sect, except for the 2 hall masters of the Shadow Hall and the Law Enforcement Hall, were directly assigned by the Qianyuan Sword Sect Master. All other halls were directly nominated by the old hall master, and then appointed by the Qianyuan Sword Sect Master. Generally speaking, once the old temple master nominates the new temple master, the Qianyuan sword sect master is impossible to object. This involves the division of power within the Qianyuan sword sect and the traditions that have always been there. So far, no suzerain has taken the initiative to break it. In fact, even if there is a suzerain who wants to break it, it is not so easy. Just like the refinery hall. Huyanqi has been in charge of the item refining hall for over 1,000 years, and almost all of the high-level and middle-level people in the item refining hall are his disciples. The middle and bottom floors of the refining hall are also almost all his disciples and grandchildren. Even if the current Qianyuan Jianzong sect master has the sole power, bypassing the old temple master Huyanqi, and directly parachuting a palace master of the refining hall, how much effect can it play? It is foreseeable that once the new item refining hall master takes office, even if Qin Zhan takes this position, no disciple of the item refining hall will be willing to obey Qin Zhan's orders. As for Fei Chengshu's appointment of other people, not to mention the outcome. Over the years, Qin Zhan, with his strong and tyrannical strength, has achieved the prestige of Nuoda, both within the sect and outside the sect. As for the others, it is estimated that on the day they took office, they might even lose their lives. You know, among the disciples of Huyanqi, there is even the true monarch nascent soul. What kind of strong man can suppress such a group of people? This is the reason why each hall master has great power. In addition to the hall masters of the Qianyuan sword sect, there is also a group called the elders of the sect. From the perspective of power, the power of the Qianyuan Jianzong elders is far less than that of the hall masters. However, the elder house, which is composed of many elders, has the power to monitor the hall master and even the suzerain. With such a huge sect of Qianyuan sword sect, if there is a sect master who is doing things in reverse, wouldn't it be possible to bring the sect to the ditch in an instant? In order to prevent the sluggishness, the ancestors of the Qianyuan sword sect in the past dynasties set up a power structure for the sect to check and balance each other, that is, the power system of the suzerain, the elder's house, and the hall master to check and balance each other. Of course. After all, Qianyuan Jianzong is a sect of immortals. Since it is a sect of immortals, it cannot escape the 4 words that the strong are respected. If a certain suzerain of Qianyuan Jianzong is superior in strength, and his wrist is tyrannical, that must be holding all the power of the sect in his hands. Generally speaking, this kind of suzerain says 1, and no one dares to say 2. Even if there is, they can only complain in private. If the strength of the suzerain cannot far exceed everyone, then Qianyuan Jianzong will enter into a power system that checks and balances each other. This system of checks and balances may not allow the sect to develop by leaps and bounds, but it will not let the sect fall into a ditch. Today's Qianyuan Jianzong is in a power structure that checks and balances each other. The suzerain concubine Chen Shui succeeded to the throne more than 400 years ago. Although her strength was at the top of the entire Qianyuan sword sect, she could not overcome the heroes. For example, Yi Yin in the Elder's Courtyard, Qin Zhan, the master of Zhenhai Hall, Hu Yanqi, the master of the Refining Hall, etc., when it comes to their own strength, they are not weaker than the suzerain's concubine, Chen Shui. As such, when Fei Chenxue was working in the sect, she was naturally tied up. However, Fei Chengshu's various behaviors were different from those of the previous suzerain, which made her relationship with the elders' home, and even with the lords of the various halls, not harmonious. If it weren't for the fact that there were a group of supporters like Qin Zhan, the head of the Zhenhai Palace, she might not be able to sit still as the suzerain. Under the guidance of the strong man, Chen Daoxian soon saw Huyanqi in the back mountain of Tianshu Mountain. Compared to 10 years ago, Huyanqi's appearance didn't seem to change, and he still looked full of energy. Now, Huyanqi, dressed in a black Taoist robe covered with cloud patterns, sat in front of a cliff on the back mountain peaks. Chen Daoxian looked forward slightly, and found that under the cliff of unknown number of meters, there was a continuous sea of fire, and a rolling heat wave was blowing towards him. Feeling this terrifying heat wave, Chen Daoxian's expression changed immediately, and he hurriedly laid a transparent space film in front of him to resist this terrifying heat wave. And the strong man beside him, in this rolling heat wave, couldn't help being unharmed at all, and there was even an expression of enjoyment on his face. What a powerful body! Chen Daoxian secretly said. Compared with his qi-refining cultivation reaching the Jindan stage, Chen Daoxuan's body-refining cultivation only reached the realm of rebirth from a broken skull, which is only equivalent to the Zifu period of his qi-refining cultivation. This kind of body refinement cultivation is definitely in the weaker class among Jindan cultivators. In fact, the speed of Chen Daoxuan's body refining is definitely not slow, but compared with the speed of his qi refining, it is not enough to see. Ahead, Huyanqi was sitting in front of the cliff, refining a high-level magic weapon. With Chen Daoxuan's level of artifact refining, he actually couldn't tell what rank the artifact in front of him was. But he could clearly perceive that the aura emanating from the tower-shaped instrument in front of him was even higher than that of his shadow-bearing sword. You must know that since Qingying's sword merged with his space sword intent, the two are no longer separate from each other. His space sword intent has transformed into space law, and the Qingying sword is also constantly improving. So far, the Qingying sword has been promoted to the 5th order low rank, and it can be promoted to the 5th rank middle rank in less than a month at most. Even so, Chen Daoxian still felt that his shadow-bearing sword was inferior to the unformed little tower in front of him. As one after another array pattern merged into the tower body from the void, the aura bursting out from the small tower became stronger and stronger. To the end. The space barriers that Chen Daoxian placed in front of him were affected by this oppression, making a crackling sound. See. Chen Daoxian quickly strengthened the thickness of the space barrier again. This is not a joke, even his cultivation in the middle of the law realm can't resist the impact of this small tower in front of him, let alone his weak body. Unless he puts his own life spirit armor on his body. But isn't it funny? He came to see the Huyan Hall Master refining tool, and even the spirit armor was put on him. Fortunately, Chen Daoxuan's Dao realm in the middle of the law realm did not disappoint him. After this little tower of unknown rank, after bursting out all the aura quickly converged. In the end, the small pagoda turned into a black light, flew into the hands of the Huyan Hall Master, and was put away by the other party. Call! Putting away the small tower, Huyanqi let out a sigh of turbidity, and then turned to look at Chen Daoxian. Seeing Chen Daoxuan's first face, Huyanqi shook his head slightly. Your body is a little weak. Junior Chen Daoxian, I have seen Senior Huyan. Chen Daoxian did not dare to neglect, and immediately bowed to Huyanqi. Although he is confident that his strength can be used in Jindan real people, even if he encounters a weaker Yuanying Jinjuan, he will not be afraid of the opponent if he plays all his cards. But facing Huyanqi, Chen Daoxian could still feel a huge pressure. Chen Daoxian knew in his heart that Huyanqi was far from what he could match now. In the past, when his strength was low, Chen Daoxian stood beside the hall master of Jinhai Palace and could hardly feel any pressure. He felt that the other party was just like an ordinary person, and he could not feel any pressure at all. But now, he once again stood in front of a powerhouse of the same level as the hall master of Jinhai Palace, and he could finally feel the terrifying power of the opponent. Chen Daoxian knew that it was not that his strength had weakened, but that his strength had increased. At least now, he could already feel the gap between the two sides. Unlike before, I can't even perceive the gap between the two sides. I only know that the other side is strong, but how strong it is, I don't know. Over the years, you have been slack. Huyanqi saw Chen Daoxuan's second glance and said such a sentence. Chen Daoxian knew the meaning of the other party's words. Huyanqi said that he was slack in the refining process. But he didn't know how Huyanqi saw it. Seemingly seeing Chen Daoxuan's question, Huyanqi said again, you don't have the slightest breath of fire on your body, and you have hardly ever refined weapons yourself, right? Ah. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian lowered his head. Junior is ashamed. Huyanqi waved his hand. You don't have to be ashamed. Speaking of it, now that you are the patriarch of the Zhangzhou clan, you are no longer short of cultivation resources, so why bother to study the art of refining? You probably think so in your heart, right? Half an hour. Chen Daoxian nodded. Junior did think so. You're sincere, sit down. Huyanqi smiled. then looked at the strong man beside Qin Daoxian. "Xian Zhu, you can sit too." "Thank you, master." The strong man sat down and grinned. Seeing this, Qin Daoxian was not hypocritical, and sat directly next to the strong man, looking at Huyanqi in front of him like a devout student. Seeing the two of them posing a pious attitude to study in front of him, Huyanqi nodded in satisfaction. Chapter 313. Qianyuan Sword Sect. Inside the fairy palace, the atmosphere was extremely solemn. Fei Chenxue stood up from the futon and said indifferently, "Since the Jindan period, we monks have paid more and more attention to the cultivation of the body, and from the nascent soul period to the nascent soul period, we must not only pay attention to the cultivation of the body, but also pay more attention to the cultivation of the body. Focus on refining God. A powerful spirit is the foundation for breaking through from the nascent soul stage to the nascent soul stage." Hearing the words, Qin Zhan on the side nodded. "Thanks to the true immortal level space law I got from the true immortal origin realm last time, my own space law has entered the realm quickly, and even my cultivation has advanced by leaps and bounds. It's just that as my cultivation base gets closer to the primordial spirit stage, I also feel more and more that my body and soul are insufficient. It's just that compared to body training, spiritual training is much more difficult. Yes, the body is easy to cultivate, but the soul is difficult to cultivate." Fei Chenxue shook her head. "Countless top nascent soul true sovereigns are all stuck at the level of divine soul. Once the cultivator takes this step and Tianzuan is not born during the tribulation period, even in the entire Xianyun continent, they are the top the presence. The primordial spirit stage." Qin Zhan was fascinated. Compared with other Yuanying true monarchs of Qianyuan Jianzong, Qin Zhan's strength is strong, but his cultivation is actually not high. 5 years ago, his cultivation was only in the middle of Yuanying. It's just that Qin Zhan's Dao realm far exceeds that of ordinary Yuanying true monarchs, which makes him one of the top true monarchs. But since he obtained the space laws of the true immortal origin realm, he has not only made new progress in the realm of the great Dao, but his own cultivation has also broken through to the late nascent soul. In terms of his own strength, Qin Zhan, who had not broken through his cultivation base, was already among the top of the Qianyuan sword sect. Now his cultivation base has broken through, and his strength has been even more fierce, and he has become the first powerhouse of Qianyuan sword sect. I am afraid that the Qianyuan sword sect master in front of him is not his opponent without using the Zhenzong immortal artifact. Seeing Qin Zhan pondering, concubine Chenxue continued, "Fangkai Hall Master's son brought a top-secret information of the Qingwei Taoist sect, and a drop of Tai divine water will soon be reborn in their Tai immortal pond. You should know what this divine water will mean to our Qianyuan sword sect once it is obtained by the Qingwei Daoist faction." Qin Zhan frowned deeply. Tai Shenxue has the effect of purifying the soul. Once it is obtained by the top Yuanying Zhenjuan of the Qingwei Taoist sect, the opponent is very likely to break through to the Yuanshan stage, and then, by that time, the strength of our Qianyuan sword sect and their Xianqing Dao alliance will be completely out of balance. Concubine Chenxue sighed, "Junior brother, it's time to work hard." Hearing this, Qin Zhan grinned and said, "We and Xianqing Dao alliance have been endlessly dying thousands of years ago. At this time, it's too late to work hard." Seeing Qin Zhan's heartless appearance, Fei Chenxue suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. Qin Zhan was actually much younger than her. Concubine Chenxue still remembered that when she held Qin Zhan as a baby in her arms, she was already a real person. After so many years, Qin Zhan walked side by side with her all the way, and even faintly surpassed her in strength. The most complicated one is probably her, the sect master of Qianyuan sword sect. Because Qin Zhan was the junior brother she raised and taught. This is also the reason why Qin Zhan supports her unconditionally no matter what she does. In Qin Zhan's eyes, she is not only a senior sister, but also a master and a mother. "Junior brother, do you blame me? If I didn't take the initiative to start a war with Izumo, maybe I could buy you a longer growth time." "Senior sister, don't be stupid, we and Xianqing Dao alliance, how can we turn around? Even if you didn't start a war with Xianqingdao League, would they let us go once they had Yuanshandao Jun? Since the day they broke through my Qianyuan Jianzong sect and drove us to Wangxinghai, both of us have been immortal. Qin Zhan raised his head, looked directly at concubine Qin Shui and said, "Senior sister, junior brother is willing to fight and die without regrets. Fei Qin Shui can be the suzerain of Qianyuan sword sect, and she is not an indecisive person." Facing Qin Zhan's gaze, Fei Chengshu's eyes gradually became firmer. "Okay, I'll be waiting for your triumph at Zhongmen." Hearing this, Qin Zhan grinned and cupped his hands. "A word is settled." "It's a word." Fei Chenxue nodded. Immediately, she spread out her right hand again, and a small golden bell was suspended in Fei Chengshu's palm. It's just that compared with ordinary high-level instruments, this small bell does not have the slightest charm and coercion, only a breath of pure yang rushes toward the face. "Emperor Yu Bell." Qin Zhan suddenly changed his color when he saw that Fei Chenxue had taken out all the immortal artifacts. As a fairy weapon handed down from ancient times, the Emperor Yu Bell has always been the treasure of Qianyuan Jianzong. Generally speaking, in Xianyun continent, only the first-class forces can possess the pure yang immortal artifact as the treasure of the sect. Qianyuan Jianzong, as a second-rate force, can possess a pure yang fairy weapon, which is very rare. This is also the confidence that Qianyuan Jianzong was able to survive after a major disaster. But now, concubine Qin took out this treasure, and it was obvious that the moment of desperate effort had come. Don't look at Qianyuan Jianzong and Xianqingdao League are calm now, but this is just a prelude before the storm. Once the Xianqingdao League has a Yuanshandao Jun, Qianyuan Jianzong will face a greater crisis than thousands of years ago. This time, it is impossible for the Xianqingdao League to make the mistake of cutting grass and not eradicating the roots again. This point, whether it is Fei Chenxue or Qin Zhan, is very clear in their hearts. Concubine Chenxue handed Emperor Yes Bell to Qin Zhan and said, "This thing has been cultivated by me for hundreds of years, and it is enough to exert a single blow. I hope you can use it to completely destroy Tai Immortal Pond." Breaking into the lair of the Qingwei Taoist sect and robbing Tai Shenxue, even with Qin Zhan's strength, it is difficult to do it alone. Because Qin Zhan didn't know when Tai Shenxue would be born. However, Qin Zhan was confident that he could do it with an explosive attack from Emperor Yes Bell to destroy Tai Immortal Pond, and then run away. Although he would definitely be pursued by the Qingwei Daoist faction after the incident, there was always a chance to escape. Qin Zhan took the Emperor Yu Bell from concubine Chenxue and nodded solemnly. "I will use the power of the whole sect to provoke at Lingwu Pass and other immortal passes, and try my best to attract the attention of the Yuanying Jinjuan of the Xianqingdao League. However, the Tai Shenxue of the Qingwei Taoist sect is about to be born. I estimate that they will reserve at least a dozen or even dozens of nascent soul true monarchs to sit in the sect, and there are many top true monarchs. Therefore, you must be careful on this trip." When concubine Chenxue said this, she sighed faintly. "Unfortunately, both my Qianyuan sword sect and the Xianqingdao League know each other's number of Yuanying true monarchs like the back of their hands. Once a large number of monks above the nascent soul stage are mobilized to go to the Qingwei Taoist realm, they will definitely be alerted by the other party." Concubine Chenxue stretched out a finger. "You only have at most 3 places for nascent soul true sovereign." Who knows that Qin Zhan heard this and shook his head with a smile. "I don't want any of them." "Senior brother." Fei Chenxue frowned. "This is not a joke." "Sister, I'm not joking." After all, a transparent realm suddenly enveloped Fei Chenxue. Within the transparent realm, a golden light swam, and around the golden light, other laws followed. Seeing this scene, Fei Chenxue was stunned. After a long time, she grabbed Qin Zhan's sleeve and said in a trembling voice, "World realm. Junior brother, have you broken through?" Qin Zhan nodded. "Do you still think that sending 3 ordinary true monarchs can help me?" Seeing that Fei Chenxue still wanted to talk, Qin Zhan raised his hand and said, "Don't tell me to send Hall Master Huyen and true monarch Lin Wu to help me. You bring us together with a bigger goal." Hearing this, Fei Chenxue suddenly stopped talking. Indeed, compared with the ordinary Yuanying true monarch, the Xianqing Dao League paid more attention to the top true monarchs of the Qianyuan sword sect. Qianyuan Jianzong can hear the news of Tai Shinshui from Qingwei Daoist scouts. Can't they get information on the whereabouts of the top true monarch from Qianyuan Jianzong? Even if their whereabouts in Wanxinghai can be kept secret, once they reach the realm of the Qingwei Daoist faction, they will be exposed sooner or later. At that point, the sneak attack becomes a strong attack. But if you want to storm a sect with dozens of nearly 100 nascent soul true sovereigns sitting in the town and protected by a high-level defense formation, just relying on a few top true sovereigns and a pure sun immortal artifact is far from enough. Especially this pure yang immortal artifact only has the power of one blow. Seeing Qin Zhan's firm expression, concubine Qinshue nodded, "Okay, listen to you." Hearing this, Qin Zhan laughed again. Tianshu Peak. Before the cliff. The three monks were sitting on the ground. Below the cliff, an endless sea of fire was exuding terrifying heat. Among the three, Huyanqi and the strong man named Xian Zhu all used their physical bodies to resist the heat wave. Only Chen Daoxian resisted the heat wave by relying on the Dao realm of the fifth lower realm. It's just that Chen Daoxuan's Dao realm is not inferior to that of ordinary Yuaning Zhenjuan. At this time, he seems to be able to withstand this terrifying heat wave with ease. Huyanqi looked at Chen Daoxian and asked, "In your opinion, what is the purpose of refining?" Hearing this, Chen Daoxian thought for a long time, and said, "The junior is relatively vulgar, let's not hide it from the seniors." Huyanqi nodded and shook his head again. "You earn spirit stones by refining tools for the purpose of cultivation, neither stealing nor robbing. What is vulgar to say?" Hearing these words, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but look a little strange at Huyanqi. Seeing him with such eyes, Huyanqi smiled and said, "Don't look at me like that. My item refining hall has a total of tens of thousands of inner sect disciples, and nearly 1 million outer sect disciples. So many people consume a huge amount of resources every year. They all rely on the sect to allocate resources. Naturally, it is not enough. Of course, we must learn to earn spirit stones by ourselves, heard." Chen Daoxian couldn't help but think of the various strange instruments introduced by Qianyuan Jianzong's item refining hall, such as the 9 ruins Linglong Pagoda, Meteorite Mobi, etc., which were all introduced by Qianyuan Jianzong's item refining hall to the great immortal clans in Wanxinghai. To be frank, among the various instruments introduced by the Qianyuan Jianzong refining hall, some instruments are indeed very useful, such as the Linglong Pagoda of the 9 ruins. In Wanxinghai, almost all the Zifu clans with a little background will buy a 9 ruins exquisite pagoda for the low-level disciples in the clan to sharpen their temperament and accumulate combat experience. The bigger Jindan family and even the Yuanying family will only buy more Linglong towers of the 9 ruins. Like the Chen family in Sangzhou, they purchased 17 Linglong pagodas of the 9 ruins. This alone cost more than 800 million spirit stones, and this is just the Zhangzhou Chen family. Moreover, the number of low-level monks in the Chen family is still much smaller than that of other Jindan families and Yuanying families in Wanxinghai. That's it, they spent so much on Linglong in the 9 ruins. And this is just a kind of magic weapon launched by Qianyuan Jianzong item refining hall. One can imagine how terrifying the profitability of Qianyuan Jianzong's item refining hall is. As the master of the refining hall, Huyanqi is probably the richest one in the entire Qianyuan sword sect. When it comes to the number of spirit stones, I am afraid that the sect master of Qianyuan sword sect is not as exaggerated as the spirit stones in his hands. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxuan's eyes on Huyanqi changed suddenly. I thought that Huyanqi, as the top true monarch, was a master who didn't eat human fireworks, but in fact, he was also worried about the cultivation resources of many disciples in the refinery hall. In this respect, the two are quite similar. Chen Daoxian used to worry about the cultivation resources of the Chen family cultivator. Even compared to Huyanqi, Chen Daoxian was more attentive. Huyanqi's item refining hall is backed by Qianyuan sword sect. At least he doesn't have to worry about making money. There are external forces to attack their item refining hall's idea. But Chen Daoxian is different. the Qin family was very weak back then. He had to consider not only the issue of making money, but also how to keep the money he earned so that he would not be coveted by others. In this situation, until Qin Daoxuan's strength became stronger and stronger, and the Qin family's power became stronger and stronger, it became much better. Qin Daoxian could clearly feel that the eyes that coveted the Qin family were decreasing, and the eyes that were afraid of the Qin family were increasing. Unconsciously, his Zhangzhou Qin family has gradually grown into a major force to suppress one side. Not to mention the ordinary Zifu family and Jindan family, even the nascent Soul clan such as the Jingzhou Ji family did not dare to look for Qin immediately after the Qin family damaged a top real person on the Jindan real person list. Trouble at home. It can be seen that the current Qin family is really different from the past. If the Jingzhou Ji family suffered such a big loss in the hands of other Zifu families or the general Jindan family, Ji Laozu would definitely come forward to ask for an explanation. And this time, the Ji family has been very low-key, as if there is no conflict between them and the Qin family. Here, it is completely nonsense to say that there is no fear of Qin Daoxuan's strength and the reason behind Qin Zhan, the master of Jinhai Palace. Seeing Qin Daoxian fall into contemplation, Huyanqi turned his head, looked at the strong man beside Qin Daoxian, and asked, "Xian Zhu, what do you think you are refining for?" "Do not know," the strong man smiled slyly, "Master taught me to forge, and I did it, I didn't think about it that much." "You idiot." Huyanqi pointed at the strong man and shook his head with a smile. Huyanqi pondered for a moment, then continued, "Actually, there is no difference between the refiner master and the array master." He paused. The array master is using the mountains, rivers, and the sky to form the formation, and our item refiner is setting up the formation between square inches. But no matter whether it is a refiner or an array master, in essence, we all have to comprehend the formation and rely on the formation. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian was thoughtful. The strong man beside him nodded immediately. Master has taught him these things, and these words are more for Qin Daoxian to listen to. Chapter 314. Formation. Qin Daoxian muttered silently. Seeing Qin Daoxian pondering, Huyanqi said while demonstrating, "At the very beginning of our artifact refiners, we just blended several or even one pattern into the artifact embryo. But the higher the grade of the instruments we refine, the more complex the arrays that are integrated into the instrument embryos." Saying that, the golden light in front of Huyanqi outlined a series of extremely complex formations, and these formations were reorganized into more complex formations. In the end, these great formations fit together and became a terrifying formation that was so complicated that people would feel dizzy just by looking at them. What is even more exaggerated is that this complicated formation actually only wanders between Huyanqi's palms. Qin Daoxian had never heard of such an ability. Although he is also an artifact refiner, and his rank is not low, as high as the third rank high rank, but like Huyanqi, who controls such a complex formation in the palm of his hand, Qin Daoxian has never even heard of it. Pass. Qin Daoxian realized that maybe, the rank of the master of the Hall of Huyan in front of him is even higher than that of the master of refiners. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian couldn't help being a little surprised. Compared with the high-level cultivation professions such as alchemists and artifact refiners, array masters are even rarer. As a result, the array master has extremely high requirements for the cultivator's array talent. Second, array masters are not as popular as alchemy masters and artifact refiners. As Huyanqi said, the refiner also has to earn cultivation resources. As for the immortal cultivation profession, there are very few channels for earning spirit stones. Usually, only certain immortal clans or sects need to invite these array mage to arrange the formation. Like the alchemist and the alchemist, almost every cultivator asks them. After all, magical tools and medicinal pills, whether it is a sect monk, a family monk or a loose cultivator, cannot do without them. Therefore, cultivators with talent in formations usually choose the profession of refiner, rather than pure mages. In fact, the formation that can be arranged by the array master can be comprehended by the same level refiner for a period of time, and the other party can also arrange it. For example, the defensive formation of Tianqiu Peak was arranged by Huyanqi, a top-ranking 5th-level craftsman. The mountain protection formation of the Qin family in Cangzhou was also arranged by Qin Daoxian. Refiners and arrays are basically the same. Even in the later stages of the alchemist, the formation technique will be involved. Many high-level spiritual pills need to be refined with the help of the power of heaven and earth, which is also an application of formation technique. It can be said that the formation method runs through most of the arts of immortality. Artifact refiners, alchemists, formation masters, and even talisman masters and spiritual plant masters all need to use formation techniques. If the formation technique is not used, many immortal cultivation professions cannot do well at all. This demonstration by Huyanqi made Qin Daoxuan's thoughts suddenly open. In fact, it's not just about cultivating immortals and 100 arts. The star sword array that the cultivators of the Qin family had displayed at the beginning was also a kind of formation. Arrays can be used not only in production logistics, but also in battles. Those Zifu cultivators in the Qin family's military department were obviously less powerful than Ji Suhui, the top real person on the Jindan real person list, but with the star sword array, they blocked the opponent abruptly. Qin Daoxian knew that if the cultivators of the Qin family did not have this sword formation at that time, they would have been tortured and killed by Ji Suhui. This shows how effective the formation is in battle. Of course, the star sword formation formed by the cultivators of the Qin family's military department was formed by hundreds of people, and only by virtue of the strength of the Zifu period could they compete with the top real people. If one person controls the sword formation, I'm afraid it will be difficult. Wait! Qin Daoxian suddenly thought of something, and a light flashed in his mind. Star Kendo map. Dividing the sea. Qin Daoxuan's breathing suddenly increased slightly. Seeing Qin Daoxuan's comprehension, Huyanqi nodded. It seems that you have also thought that the higher the rank of our artifact refiners, the deeper the mastery of the way of fighting. The way of the formation method can not only be used in the cultivation of immortals, but also can improve our own strength. This is what I said to you at the beginning, the broad and profound meaning of the way of refining. Hearing these words from the bottom of his heart, Qin Daoxian was a little moved, and immediately saluted the other party. Thank you, Hall Master Huyan, for your guidance. I can't talk about guidance, I just don't want you, a good seedling of the refining tool, to be buried here. I hope this old man's words will not cause you trouble. Saying that, Huyanqi smiled and shook his head. Where is the Lord Huyan? Qin Daoxian did not dare. After some discussion, most of them were Huyanqi talking and Qin Daoxian listening. Most of Huyanqi's teachings are the way of refining tools, and only a very small part involves the understanding of the law realm. Of course, regardless of the way of refining tools or the perception of the law, at the level of Qin Daoxian, they all look very immature in front of Huyanqi, and of course there is not much room for interjection. As for the strong man beside him, he didn't say a word from beginning to end. If he hadn't nodded his head from time to time, Qin Daoxian would have thought that he was wandering in the sky. The three people who were present were all very high in cultivation and strength, and the time passed by very fast. Unconsciously, the three of them sat cross-legged in front of the cliff all night. Huyanqi seemed to see that Qin Daoxuan's eyebrows were a little sad, and he couldn't help asking, Daoxian, do you have anything else? Qin Daoxian nodded. Don't hide the Hall Master Huyan. The younger generation's trip was originally intended to find Hall Master Qin, but he was just passing through Tianqiu Mountain, so it is. Huyanqi nodded knowingly. I seem to have heard that Qin Zhan owes you a big favor in Qingqiu Demon Country. That's true, Qin Daoxian nodded. Actually, this junior is here because he wants to ask Hall Master Qin for something. Oh, what's the matter? Huyanqi didn't see anything, and asked directly. Qin Daoxian glanced at Huyanqi, paused, and was about to tell the story of Qin Xianhe. Let the monks who are over 100 years old build their foundations? Huyanqi couldn't help frowning. I wonder if the seniors have a way. Huyanqi frowned and seemed to be weighing. A long time. Huyanqi shook his head and said, difficult. The transformation of the soul is the most difficult thing to do on the way of cultivation. Cultivators practice refining chi, body, and spirit. Among them, refining the spirit is the most difficult, and for us Yuanying monks to break through the Yuanshan stage, the biggest difficulty is the transformation of the soul. According to what you said, this elder in your clan was supposed to die, but he was forcibly extended his life with the treasure of life extension, but in doing so, the corruption of the soul is deepening. If you want to build a foundation, you must wash away the rotten twilight energy on the soul, but the treasure that purifies the soul and transforms the soul. Huyanqi shook his head again. Hearing this, Chen Daoxuan's heart gradually sank. Although he knew for a long time, the treasures that can transform the cultivator's soul must be extremely precious. Ordinary monks don't even dare to think about it. Even Chen Daoxian can only hope to gain something from the master of Jinhai Palace. After all, this boss is the top figure in Wanxinghai. If even the hall master of Jinhai Palace is powerless, in a short period of time, Chen Daoxian can only watch his 13th uncle sit down. As for the Divine Sea chapter he practiced, it does have the effect of refining the gods, but the effect of refining the gods in this practice is too slow, and Chen Xianhe can't wait. And Chen Daoxian is not sure, Shanhai chapter will definitely be able to cleanse Chen Xian's rotten spirit from his soul. Seeing Chen Daoxuan's desolate expression, Huyanqi comforted, this matter, you can ask Qin Zhan again. He often travels in Wanxinghai and the real demon world, and what he has seen and heard is better than me who stayed in the sect all day. More elderly people. If you ask him, you should get something. Hearing this comforting sentence, Chen Daoxian squeezed a smile on his face and cupped his hands, borrow the good words from senior. Go. Huyanqi knew that Chen Daoxian had no intention of talking at the moment, and he didn't force it. He waved his sleeves and said, Xianzhu, you go send it off. Yes, master. Senior, junior farewell. After that, he nodded to the strong man beside him. Seen off by this strong man named Xianzhu, Chen Daoxian left Tianshu Mountain with a heavy heart. Unimpeded all the way, Chen Daoxian and the two came out of the Tianshu Mountain defense formation. Outside the big array, the strong man cupped his hands towards Chen Daoxian and said cheerfully, Friend Chen Dao, I wish you the fulfillment of your wish on this trip. Thank you, Chen Daoxian nodded solemnly, My lord, Chen Daoxian, don't you know the name of your fellow Daoist? My name is Zhou Xianzhu. With that said, the strong man disappeared in front of Chen Daoxian. Sure enough, it's him, the first person on the Jindan real person list, Zhou Xianzhu, the real person of Tianzhu. Chen Daoxian looked at the strong man who disappeared in front of him and muttered. Almost all the Jindan people on the Wanxinghai Jindan reality list are all the names that have been created in the Izumo country in the past 400 years. Such as Ji Suhui, the real blood slaughterer who was killed by Chen Daoxian, and Zhou Xianzhu, the real man of Tianzhu who just left. It is precisely because their battles for fame are in Izumo, so their names are all more violent than each other. Either it was the blood slaughter, or it was Tianzhu, and there were the real people of Josha, the real people of fear, and so on. Anyway, these names don't sound like a good thing. It is different from the Zifu Tianjiao list. Each real person on the Jindan real person list has his own name, and these names are recognized by the outside world. For example, Ji Suhui, the real blood slaughterer who has been beheaded by Chen Daoxian. The reason why he has this name is that he is extremely bloodthirsty, and when Ji Suhui slaughtered, he basically ignored it. Whether it is a monk of the same level, a low-level monk, or even a mortal who poses no threat to him, Ji Suhui killed without mercy. It can be said that people like Ji Suhui are not only hated by the enemy, but also by Wan Xinghai's friendly army. After all, for the many scattered cultivators in Wanxinghai, once the war is won, the cultivators and mortals captured by the Izumo kingdom are all their property. Ji Suhui's behavior is undoubtedly destroying the property they have acquired. Who doesn't hate this kind of behavior? That is to say, Ji Suhui is powerful, and he is a Ji family cultivator with a deep background. When facing such a character, Sancho naturally dares not to speak out. It's just that the backgrounds of those who mingled on the battlefield of Izumo Kingdom are complicated. Among them, there are those who are afraid of the Ji family in Jingzhou, and there are those who are not afraid of the Ji family. These Jindan real people who are not afraid of the Ji family have been repeatedly destroyed by Ji Suhui, and naturally they will not give the other party a good look. After a long time, Ji Suhui naturally couldn't get along in Izumo, and returned to Wan Xinghai obediently. It's just that not long after he returned to Wan Xinghai, he took over the first mission given to him by the family, and he met Chen Daoxian, who had just broken through the Golden Core stage, and became Chen Daoxuan's soul under the sword. From this point of view, the cultivator who pushed Ji Suhui back from the Izumo battlefield was the real culprit who killed Ji Suhui. Looking back at Tianshu Mountain, Chen Daoxian flashed and flew towards the dojo of the Hall Master of Jinhai Temple. Don't look at Tianshu Mountain and the dojo of Jinhai Hall's Hall Master are adjacent. In fact, the two are very far apart. Chen Daoxian flew a stick of incense in his dungeon before he arrived at the dojo of the Hall Master of Jinhai Temple. It is completely different from the layout of Tianshu Mountain. The dojo of Qin Zhan, the master of Jinhai Palace, is actually fully open. The so-called fully open type means that this mountain range does not even have a defensive formation. This, worthy of being the master of Jinhai Palace. Chen Daoxian shook his head. Generally speaking, even if the cultivator does not want to be disturbed, he will arrange some anti-disturbing formations such as a maze. When it came to Qin Zhan, there were no confusion formations, killing formations, or simple defensive formations, and none of them were arranged. Come if you want, I'll wait for you with the door open. This style really matches the temperament of the Hall Master of Jinhai Palace. Chen Daoxian just flew to the front of the mountain. A voice sounded in Chen Daoxuan's ear, "Come to the top of the mountain." Chen Daoxuan's consciousness swept away, and immediately flew towards a mountain top among the peaks. Compared with Tianshu Mountain, the mountains on the dojo of Jinhai Hall's Hall Master are particularly deserted, and there are very few disciples. Flying all the way, Chen Daoxian hardly saw a few caves. After half a cup of tea. On the top of a mountain, Chen Daoxian saw Qin Zhan, the head of the Jinhai Palace, who was tall and straight and dressed in white. Compared with 5 years ago, Hallmaster Qin's appearance has not changed at all. But Chen Daoxian felt that the breath on his body seemed to be a little different from before. On the top of the mountain, the wind was howling. But for the astonishingly powerful monks like Chen Daoxian and Qin Zhan, this gust of wind is no different from a breeze. Qin Zhan was sitting on the stone bench, with a pot of sake on the stone table in front of him, and he was pouring and drinking himself. Sit. Qin Zhan drank a glass of wine. Chen Daoxian sat silently. Putting down the wine glass, Qin Zhan looked at Chen Daoxian and said with a smile, "You have changed so much. If I hadn't practiced the secret technique of spiritual eyes, I would have doubted whether you were taken away by some old monster." Chen Daoxian was frightened by Qin Zhan's words, but his face did not show any strangeness. Seeing Chen Daoxuan's appearance, Qin Zhan shook his head and said with a smile, "With your talent, you must have passed the inheritance trial of Wan Xinghai, right, Heard?" Chen Daoxian thought for a while, then nodded and said, "I am dissatisfied with the seniors, the juniors passed by." "How?" Qin Zhan raised his eyebrows. "For now, it's on the first floor of the Tongtian Tower." "What?" Qin Zhan rubbed his palms violently and laughed, "I knew that with your talent, you would definitely be able to make it this far. Unfortunately, the Tongtian Tower is too difficult. Too difficult. Today, I have only reached the second floor, and I don't know if I will have a chance to break through this tower in this life and truly get the inheritance." "You said, if one day, both of you and I can pass through this tower, wouldn't they become brothers and sisters?" Qin Zhan said this and grinned again. Chen Daoxian looked at the Hall Master of Jinhai Palace in front of him, wondering if it was his own delusion. He felt that Qin Zhan's words were a bit too much today. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.